Okay, I'm pushing the button right now. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another episode of True Story Live. Tonight's offering is An Unfinished Life, Secrets of the Sanctuary. I'm very much looking forward to this one, and I hope you are as well. It is the Sunday before the tax deadline. For those of you that are worried about filing your taxes and are waiting till the last minute, you have until the end of day tomorrow. So I guess the only reason I would mention that is mention that I do work for TurboTax. And so for the past several days, that's what I've been dealing with is other people's procrastination and their angst and anxiousness about taxes. Or don't worry, I'm not going to go into a big long diatribe about how I think taxes shouldn't be
what they are.
Yeah, what they are. Well, I'm okay saying that. I think it's an overreach. I mean, some of the things that they do is an overreach for sure. I'm not saying we shouldn't pay any taxes on anything because that's how we get our roads and that's how people that struggle financially get help. And I mean, there's advantages to it.
Mm-hmm.
But having done this kind of work, I know more about it than I ever did before. And there are some things that put people through that I just think is ridiculous. I mean, for instance, to file a form, if there's some kind of $5 transaction, to have to fill a form out and send it back in over $5. I don't know. Anyway, so we're happy you're here, and we'll get into this topic here in just a second, and we'll also say hello to the chat. First, I'll have each one of my wonderful panel members say hello, and this time we'll do the opposite of what I usually do, and we'll go to Glenn first. Our friend Glenn from Australia. We'll say hello to him, or he'll say hello to us. How you doing, Glenn?
Not too bad. What you doing, mate?
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Matey.
Yeah. So this is tonight's offering is another one written by Glenn. We enjoyed the open discussion, and that seemed to go really well. And as promised, we're going back to our regular format. And again, we would love to have your feedback. So there are a couple different ways to do that. You can leave something in the description on the actual broadcast. You can send an email to me at truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. And if you have anything for Jen or Glenn, you just put it in the subject line and I'll make sure they get it. And also, as mentioned, I would not be available for the Tuesday night meet, but if Jen or Glenn would like to talk about how that went, I was not present, but they went ahead and had one in my absence, which I am delighted by. I'm glad that they went ahead with it. So how did that go Tuesday, the TSL meeting room?
I thought it went great.
Okay.
We had some great discussions. Everybody participated.
Yeah.
So that was good.
And people showed up and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So just to remind everyone, that is Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I've changed the settings on there. So pretty much Glenn actually sent me a way to do that, a Google tool that I added that allows people just to come in. And so you won't have to wait around or anything. You just get the link and you can just let yourself in the door, so to speak. So we'd like to see anyone interested in doing that on Tuesday night. I will probably not, I actually might be there. The big day is Monday. I work all day Monday. So if it were Monday, I wouldn't be able to do that. And then Tuesday, I do get a little bit of a break and it starts to kind of taper off. So I might actually be there Tuesday. I think originally I said that I wouldn't be there. But I now that we're getting closer to the day, I see that I didn't schedule myself too heavily for after Monday. So anyway, we invite you to come and join that. These are really enjoyable, and it's just it's just really just, hanging out, really. I mean, there's not a particular subject or anything like that. So you can pretty much talk about whatever you want. And it's a way to get to know each other too. So if you want to get to know other people and maybe get to know some people that you've seen in the chat, it's I really suggest it. I think it's a good thing. Okay, Jen, say hello to people. I went on and didn't give you a chance to say hello.
That's
Say
okay. Hello, people. Great to see you guys. So glad to be here, and I'm really excited about this topic.
Yeah, me too. Me too. We're going to get
Forward
into
to it.
that in just a second. Now, I know more people will come in, but what we'll do is we'll have Jen say hello to the people that are in the chat already, and then we'll kind of keep an eye on the chat, and we try to make sure and say hello to everyone that comes in, even if it's if we're in the middle of something, it might come later when you pop in. And if you're listening to the playback, we would love to have you in the chat. We do have a lot of people that very rarely, if ever, participate in the chat. But again, it's a way to get to know people. And the people that come and do the chat every week, they seem to really enjoy it. And I enjoy reading them. And it's a way that while the broadcast is going on, if you have any comments or questions, then you can pop those in the chat and put them in all caps for me, if possible. And if anyone needs a lesson about how to do that, Stephanie does it very well. She makes sure and puts it in all caps for me, and sometimes she even puts True Story Live on there, at True Story Live. So hard to miss those.
That's true.
Hard to miss.
Easy
All
to
right.
pick out.
All right, Jen. We don't have not everyone's here yet, but if you could take a second and just say hello to the people in the chat.
Yes, we've got Liam. Liam was here first. He was here early. 8:31, dude. It's awesome.
Welcome.
And we have Darlene. Hey, Dar. Mr. Glenn, me. Annette is here. Stephanie's here. We have Debbie here. Gia is here. And I think that is it so far.
Okay, that's all right.
Great to see you guys. Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, appreciate you being here. Yeah, I'm sure more will come in. Our average is right around 10. A lot of times it's 12. So right around in there of people that actually come and enjoy the chat. And that's fine with us. I may have said this before, but I'd rather have 10 to 12 people that really seem to enjoy it and get a lot out of it. Rather have that than have a huge channel with a bunch of subscribers and nobody's involved. My friend Rob/John just popped in, and so we'll say hello to him. Hello, John/Rob. John. Okay. Hello. Welcome. Okay. Now, see, I just was talking about that, and now we're up to 10. So I like it. All right, we're going to get right into it. Unless anyone has anything, any news about our lives or anything that anyone wants to share before we get going. No. I'm not trying to delay or anything. It just
I don't know. It sounds like it.
We got Wild Rat just popped in. I'm not sure I'm familiar with who you are, but welcome, and I'm sure everyone will give you a nice welcome. Glad you're here. All right. Based on what your comment said, we may know who you are. Just might be a different handle for you. So you said it's been a while. So yeah. So maybe someone that we already know. So welcome back then. We're still glad you're here. Just that you might not be a new person, just a new name. Okay. All right. Excuse me. Tonight's topic is An Unfinished Life, Secrets of the Sanctuary, and we're going to dive right in. We're starting with a quote. Death is what gives life meaning. To know your days are numbered, your time is short. You think after all this time I'd be ready. But look at me, stretching one moment out into 1,000 just so that I can watch the snow. Wow. The Ancient One, Dr. Strange. Why then an unfinished life? Well, it's one thing that we can each say, each person who is alive has in common. We're all going to expire. And for the fortunate ones, we have some choices how to spend that remaining time. And An Unfinished Life, the link is in the description. Definitely take a look. Please see the link below for proposed overview of upcoming shows. Feel free to contribute thoughts, ideas, and suggestions, etc. It will be updated each week. So Glenn is monitoring this, and as I just read, the link is in the description, so you go and check that out, and you can put any thoughts, ideas, and suggestions in there, and Glenn will keep an eye on that. Okay, so Secrets of the Sanctuary, a mysterious yet tender synth and piano motif swirls while subtle strings craft a melancholy theme, swelling with emotion, gradually building to a dramatic romantic climax. And of course, Audiomachine album La Belle Epoque. Tonight, part 1 essentially looks at our identity and why we might not tend to share ourselves. Another quote: "For a long time, it seems to me that real life was about to begin, but there was always some obstacle in the way. Something had to be got through first, some unfinished business. Time still to be served, a debt to be paid, then life would begin. At last it dawned on me that these obstacles were my life." And that quote is brought to us by Bette Howland. Maybe the way we face life's obstacles is indicative of who we are. Hence, the big one: who am I? What defines my identity? Example, values, personality, individuality, etc. How might our belief system be represented in our identity? Is personal identity an illusion? Do we just represent the social order? Is the imperative that we understand and assign some meaning to who we are, or is it more relevant to just appreciate the simplicity of the gift and try to live that gift? Wow. It seems obvious that there are no definitive answers to who am I, but perhaps we can gain insight into who we are by looking at what we are prepared to reveal about ourselves. To how many people have you truly revealed your sanctuary secrets? I'll read that one again. It's a little floppy there at the beginning. To how many people have you truly revealed your sanctuary secrets? If you have with just one, you receive a gold star. In the context of an unfinished life, we ask, what does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person actually mean? Is it laying everything out without caring how much you embarrass yourself? Is it exposing your behaviors and attitudes as they really are? No political correctness? Is it showing freely the ridiculous and funny alongside the serious and imperfect you? Is it sharing when you're upset and hurt and showing it without reservation? Is it asking when you want something and not feeling guilty or anxiety for doing so? What else forms part of the great reveal? Is it what many describe as reveal, not reveal at all? Read that one again. What else forms part of the great reveal? Is what many describe as reveal, not reveal at all? Hopefully, we have established at least some elements of what this reveal entails. So, what are the advantages and disadvantages of taking off the mask completely, being totally honest with yourself, and revealing all to another person as well as to yourself? To those who have been hurt in the past, how relevant is prior hurt in the decision to reveal or not reveal in the future? How difficult is it to overcome the fear of rejection and possible revenge motives? Are those negative experiences ever able to be put to one side? Is the amount of reveal that one feels comfortable with proportional to their self-esteem? Is there a certain contentment and inner peace that comes from sharing the real you? And that's in inverted commas, the real you. Alternatively, is this all just double Dutch and it's a waste of space? Okay, so stay tuned for part 2 next week, where we will ask you to open your eyes. And then we'll finish with a quote. I'll read this again at the end. I just have to read this one. I don't know why he saved my life. Maybe in those last moments, he loved life more than he ever had before. Not just his life, anybody's life, my life. All he'd wanted were the same answers the rest of us want. Where did I come from? Where am I going? How long have I got? All I could do was sit there and watch him die. Rick Deckard, Harrison Ford, after the final confrontation with Roy Batty, Rutger Hauer, Blade Runner, 1982. Okay, great movie, by the way, and I love that movie. They did I think it was 2 years ago or a year before last. I think it was a year before last. Yeah, because it seems like it was before the whole virus thing that we were able to go and not wear masks. It seems like to me, but they did I think it'd been 20 years or something, maybe longer. Maybe it was longer than 20 years. But anyway, they did a sequel to Blade Runner and had Harrison Ford reprising his role. It was actually fairly good.
Oh.
Sometimes nothing beats the original, though. Okay.
True.
Well, guys, we got a real good one for you tonight. We have a lot of questions in this one. Glenn is really good at asking questions, and so we have a lot to get to. So we'll dive right in. Okay. Just let me check really quickly and make sure no one else popped in while I wasn't looking. Just say hello to. It looks like Celine popped in. So hello to you, Celine. Welcome. We're glad you're here as always. Okay. All righty. Okay. First question is, hold on, guys. Okay. So here we go. Maybe the way we face life's obstacles is indicative of who we are, hence the big one, who am I? Well, that's the first one I see here after the quote. So I'll read the quote again. For a long time, it seemed to me that real life was about to begin, but there was always some obstacle in the way. Something had to be got through first, some unfinished business, time still to be served, a debt to be paid, then life would begin. At last, it dawned on me that these obstacles were my life. Bette Howland. Okay, I like that one too. So maybe the way we face life's obstacles is indicative of who we are. Hence, the first question, the big one: who am I? Who am I, Jen?
Jason Cripps.
Yeah, that's who I am. Who are you?
You didn't say who are you. You said who am I?
Who am I? I gotta remember.
Oh, golly.
That is a big one. Who am I?
Yeah, I'm me.
Yeah, you are you. Wonderful you.
I love this quote, by the way.
Yeah.
The Bette Howland quote. I've
Let's
been
talk
here
about the
before.
quote. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
When I was married to somebody who had this. I hadn't been like this before, like before that particular marriage. Particular, like there's been more than one. This long list of ex-husbands. No, just kidding. But he was so future focused. Everything we were doing in the present was to get to some distant arrival to somewhere.
Yeah.
And it never seemed like we were getting any closer. It always seemed like we were actually getting further away.
Yeah.
And for him, it was maintenance mode. That's what he called it.
Yep.
And it was so exhausting. It was just super exhausting. And I noticed that life was just rushing past me.
Yeah.
And we weren't enjoying the present. And even then, I knew that the present is something incredibly precious.
Sure.
But we were not living in it. And it was nerve-wracking and even scary. But I think we all go through moments like this where we have this goal in mind.
Yeah.
Like I think I've described it sometimes on the show, like once or twice, about just climbing this rock face.
Mhm.
trying to get to the top, but not recognizing that there's like these shelves along the way, and that it is the
Oh,
journey. The journey is the goal, you
yeah,
know. It's
yeah,
and it's just such a great realization to come
yeah.
to know that the things that we go through, the hard things, the good things, and everything in between, it should be something that's cherished and fully experienced.
Wow.
So, what about you? What do you say about that quote?
Well, first of all, that was beautifully shared. I love the way that you talked about that, especially the example you used about the rock climbing, there being shelves, and I would add to that, enjoying the sky and enjoying that you're exercising and exerting yourself and thinking about the experience as you climb, as opposed to just the mountaintop experience. So the whole thing should be enjoyed. That was good. I want to comment on that too. I've done a lot of this, and I shudder to think about how much time I have. I won't say wasted, because I do know that everything is used for something. There's very little refuse or garbage
Yeah.
in our life, especially if we're growing and changing and trying to improve as a person in this world. Um, Even the rough times, even the hard times, even though it seems that it was wasted time to me, there have been a lot of times that I was waiting for something else for my life to begin.
Yeah.
Now I know that now. Of course, everything's hindsight. Hindsight is always 2020. I don't know how it wouldn't be, because life goes on, and then you can look back at a situation and you can see, hey, I was a real bonehead during that time, because I wasn't living for then. I was living for some future thing that never seemed to arrive. And while you were talking, Jen, about your previous marriage and how that you're just living for maintenance mode and some futuristic thing to happen, I was thinking it's like walking backwards down a set of stairs, or walking up the wrong escalator. Like where you're
Yeah.
trying to move up, but for every 2 steps you take, you're down 4 steps. It's almost as if you're walking in place and you're trying to get to the top or trying to get to the bottom, and you don't ever seem to get anywhere.
Yeah.
What it seems like.
It makes me think of the dolly zoom that we were talking about the other day. You know those clips in movies where someone's standing still or even walking, and the background just
Yeah.
stretches out.
Yeah. I love
It's
that.
like, oh my gosh, where's it going?
Yeah. It's a nice trick. It's a nice effect. So who am I? That's a great question. I am someone who is constantly changing. I'm not the same person, hopefully today, as I was yesterday, and not in a bad way. I hope that I'm improving and becoming someone different. And I look back at the person I used to be, and I can't say he was all bad. I think I've always had value in some way, or I had friends, or I was kind to someone. Um, but I can see these parts of myself that I didn't like, for sure. And now, over the past few years, I wonder, if I look back at myself, if there are any more parts of me that I don't like anymore. Because it seems like there aren't. Seems like I've gotten to a place, and you can call it maturity or growth or whatever word you want to use. But I like myself a lot more now than I ever have, probably. Who
That's
am
awesome.
I think this is a big one, and I'm not sure we can answer it in a bullet point, or within 2 hours. I think it's a constantly shifting question. I think in some ways we're always trying to find out who we are, especially if we are changing, because it shifts. Uh, Even our desires, even things foods that we used to like, we may not like anymore, or we used to might have hate a food, and then later on you get a taste for it. I don't know. Certainly, to use this for example, I used to choose a certain type of friend group, and I don't regret that. but I wouldn't choose the same types of friends now. In some cases, not every
Yeah.
case, but in a lot of cases, I wouldn't. And is that because I've changed, or is it because these people, in hindsight, weren't always good? I know one thing as far as choosing friends goes is I have no more tolerance for people that uh, will just take advantage and they don't contribute anything to the relationship. Um, so I guess I would say that I've changed.
Yeah.
That is a big one. Like I said, I don't know that I can answer that. For now, I'll say who I am. Who am I? I am someone who hopes to constantly change and improve. That's how I would
That's
answer
nice. Yeah.
that. What about you, Glenn? The big one. Who am I? Who are you, Glenn?
Honestly, it's too big for me. I just can't. I
Right.
can't really give an answer that would do that question justice. So I've got to say it's beyond me. It's beyond my comprehension, really, because it is that big. The only thing I do know is I'm worth about 80 cents in chemical, if that helps.
80 cents.
So I don't think anyone's going to be bothered melting me down for 80 cents.
No, not for that. No, but you're worth a lot more than that to me, Glenn. Just so you know.
Yeah, so it's just huge. It's huge. I mean, where do you go with that, really?
Yeah. It
I
could
don't know.
kind of unfold for quite a while.
Yeah, it's just an expanding question that I think the more you try to answer it, the more you realize you can't.
Yeah.
And if you're changing a little bit every day, you can't put a period on that. It's got to be a dot dot dot,
Yeah. Right. That's kind of what I was trying to say, Jen, that it shifts and changes, hopefully. If a person isn't changing, then yeah, you might be able to say, okay, you can define another person um, the same all the time because they're not changing. But I don't know anyone that doesn't change for the better or for the worse in some way.
Yeah.
I mean, aging at least changes some things. I mean, you grow older and you struggle with things that weren't an issue for you in your 20s. Um, I don't consider myself old yet to this point, but I do know that I don't have the same stamina that I did when I was in my 20s, for sure. And that's natural. I don't expect to. Like with drinking, I mean, I remember in my 20s, I was much more adventurous in that area, and I would, stay up really, really late, and I didn't seem to have any problem getting up and going to work. Where now I wouldn't even bother with it. Like the thought makes me cringe of doing something like that now, because for many reasons, there's a lot of reasons why. But one of the main reasons is because I don't want to feel like that. Back then, I didn't seem to care. I mean, it's something you complain about if you drank too much the night before. You'd be like, "Oh my gosh, do I have a headache?" And I'll never do that again. It's like, yeah, sure, you'll never do it again. You'll never do it again. Well, now it's true. I'll never do it again. All right. Okay, so we're gonna all agree on this first one that it's a open question, and maybe we can't come up with a definitive answer on that, at least in tonight's broadcast. And Jen said in the chat, "Who are you guys?" And I saw that in there, and I thought, well, yeah, we would love for you guys to answer these questions as they come along. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to answer the first one, the big one, who am I? Please include that in the chat, and I would love to read those out. And again, if you put them in caps, that makes it easier for me to see. But honestly, we don't have too many people in there, so I mean, you don't have to do that. It just makes it easier. All right. The next one: what defines my identity? Example: values, personality, individuality, etc. What defines, or I'm sorry, what did I say? What defines my identity is what I should have said. What did I say? I don't know.
I thought that's what you said.
Okay, maybe I did. What defines my identity? And Glenn gave a couple examples: values, personality, individuality, etc.
I think it's the things important to you,
Hmm.
like the most important to you. You
Yeah.
know, like if your values are most important, then that's a part, an ingredient in what identifies you
Sure.
or defines you. Um,
Sure.
but I mean, it's a whole, we're all multifaceted, and I think it's everything. It's personalities, values, morals, faith, spirituality, personality, all that stuff.
Hmm.
Thoughts?
Yeah. Uh, what do you think defines your identity, Jen? The things you mentioned, or
Yeah.
are those important to you? What's important to you? It's not one of the questions, but I'm just curious.
I definitely think spirituality, faith, morals, love.
Yeah.
Those are like the biggest.
Yeah.
God, definitely.
Yeah.
He defines me.
Yeah. He defines you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could do a whole broadcast on that. He defines you. We were talking today about that very thing, about how
Yeah.
other people define us, and sometimes we take that on board, and I don't think we should. I think allowing God to define you, if you believe in Him, I believe that's something you can count on. That's something that's truly helpful. But sometimes the opinions of others weigh too heavily in our minds, and it
Yeah.
affects how we view life, how we view our life, and how we view the world. And their opinions might not amount to anything.
Yeah.
Their opinions of us, or other people's opinions of you, if you're listening, those opinions might be useless,
Yeah.
especially if they're negative,
Hmm.
if they're not positive, if they're not uplifting, if they don't benefit you in any way, if they're not trying to help you be a better person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I do think some of us, like I know I used to let other people define me. Like who they thought I was the reality, not who I thought I was or who God thought I was.
Right.
And so, and I'll just share with the group today. I struggle sometimes resting.
Hmm.
I feel so guilty and so much shame with just doing nothing and resting.
Right.
I feel like I need to be doing something, cleaning the
Right.
toilets or dishes or
Sure.
running errands. And I feel better when I'm actively doing something, but sometimes I need a rest, and it's really annoying to be trying to relax and just recuperate from the week before I start a new week.
Right.
And to have this guilt, like
Yeah.
someone's looking over my shoulder and judging me, and unfortunately it was my ex,
Yeah.
that I lived with, for 14 years. And so it really was ingrained in me, to be working 24/7 with this person, and them to tell me all the time, I do all the work. So
Yeah.
I was just brainwashed into thinking that even when I was working all the time,
Yeah.
I was doing nothing, which was ridiculous. But
Right.
so that's just, it's a struggle when you let other people define you. And it's so strange to me looking back at it now, and seeing that I let people, I know it comes from childhood, and I'm still pulling that apart and unpacking it, but it's just so strange to me that now, with hindsight, that I let other people define me.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this before on the show, and I was never taught how to figure out who I was. So when you're
Right.
not taught that and you don't do it, what's left but to have other people define you? Tell me. It's like for me growing up, I was always looking at other people, especially my parents, like, tell me who I am.
Yeah.
Please, somebody come along and tell me who I am.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband came along, and he sure did tell me who I was. And it
Right.
was not the truth at all.
No,
But I was
not at all.
waiting for somebody to,
Sure.
to tell me.
In
So
fact,
that
yeah,
was,
and you've said before, that's kind of that. Yeah, that's what you were looking for, and you found someone that was willing to do that. And at the time, you probably thought it was the right thing.
yeah, was not positive.
It was not positive. Yeah, and because whatever someone else's opinion of you is, it's based on their worldview and how they view themselves. It's very rarely ever separate from that.
Yeah.
So
And my dad always said that when you do that, because we're all warped in different ways because of our
right.
experiences, you're looking
Right.
at your reflection in a warped mirror.
Yeah.
So what's reflected back isn't usually the
Right.
best.
It's
So
like a fun house mirror. You know?
Yeah, that's what I picture in my head.
Yeah. So it's like a funhouse mirror. If anybody remembers, oh, you've ever been to a fair or a county fair or anything like that, they have the funhouse, and usually sometimes on the outside they have this mirror where if you get close enough to it, you look really, really thin and tall, and if you back further away, I don't know which it is, but you back further away and it makes you look shorter and huge.
Yeah, I think it's like your head and shoulders are small, and then your middle is like really big, and
Yeah,
then your feet are really big.
yeah, yeah. So it's a
It's very
warped reflection.
yeah.
That's a great example. Yeah. So if you're looking at yourself by the opinion of someone else, I think it's almost always going to be warped. It's always going to be a skewed view, so to speak. I don't think it's ever straight on. Of course, then we've talked about how you never really truly see your true reflection anyway. It's impossible. I mean, you're looking at a one-dimensional surface, looking at yourself, trying to determine what you look like, and you can't really ever see yourself the way other people see you with your own eyes. Even when you look at video, I don't think that's quite an accurate depiction of what you look like either. In the same way that hearing your voice sounds foreign and strange to you when you hear it played back. uh, a lot of times, people will hear their voice for the first time on a tape or on this broadcast, and says, "Is that what I sound like?" Yeah, for the most part, it's what you sound like. But when you speak, your voice sounds different to you in your own head than it might sound if it's listened to on a recording,
Yeah.
or how other people hear you. I guess the overall point for this one is you shouldn't allow other people to define you. You should be defining yourself. So in terms of this question, for my part, what defines my identity? I would agree with some of the things Jen mentioned. God definitely is something. Love defines me. I liked what you said, Jen, that the things that we feel are important. Relationships are probably relationships are high on my list. They're important to me. And they always have been in some ways. I mean, I've gone through periods of time where they weren't as important. But I really care. I really care about people that I'm close friends with, and I care about my family, and I certainly care about my wife. She's at the top of the list. She's at the top of the list. Everyone else is secondary to that. But that does define me. My love for her helps define who I am. The way I treat her helps define who I am. It tells her what kind of person I am. I think that's always true. The way you treat your significant person in your life, I think that is part of what defines you. In other words, if you treat people kindly, and you seem to treat them in an empathetic manner, and you care about their needs and wants and desires, then that, I think, says a lot. It defines what type of person you are. If the opposite is true, we were talking before the show about our neighbors. There are ones, I believe, downstairs right underneath us. And we have these doors that are on an automatic hinge, industrial hinge, I think is what you call it, Jen. Is that what you said?
Industrial
Spring hinges. Okay. So for those of you that don't know what that is, you don't have to close the door. And sometimes it's convenient if you walk in and unlock the door and you got a handful of groceries, and if you're a man, you've tried to put your hands in every single bag, the plastic bags, and you're trying to grab them all up in one trip. You're killing yourself because you don't have to go back down the stairs and you don't have to go back down. You're grabbing them all. It's beneficial in that you don't have to worry about shutting the door. The door will shut itself. But all the time, and I understand apartment living, there's noises. I get that. There are all kinds of noises. There are a lot of people living here. There are kids living here. So there's a certain expectation that there's going to be more noise. But there are some people that live their life like there's no one else in the world that exists. They don't seem to care about whether they bother anybody or whether the noise that they make, whether it be music or yelling or or fighting or tearing stuff up in the hallway and leaving it there, leaving a baby, not a crib. What is that? A high chair. There's been a high chair that's been sitting outside a abandoned apartment for months. It seems like over a month. When the people moved out, they just set it out there, and it's there. It sits. I mean, who does that? Who doesn't care about anyone else so much so to the point where they just leave their garbage out for someone else to come around and take care of? I don't get that. Anyway, I brought it up because of the door slamming and stuff. I mean, people slam their doors and they don't care. They're not concerned with anyone else. They're just concerned with themselves. So there you have that. All right. So enough blathering on from me. Glenn, what defines my identity? Let's answer that one. What defines your identity, Glenn?
Probably two things. The first is going to be easy values, but the second one's going to be the one that seems to cause the consternation, is trying to love everybody equally rather than have a top of the list. So it's love related, but it's that different concept I've mentioned to you before. I know a lot of people disagree with that, so I don't know whether you want to discuss it or not, but I think it certainly made a big difference to the way I view the world and people in it.
Sure. I remember you bringing that up, and I remember saying at the time, I don't think it's possible to do that, but it's certainly an ideal to strive for. I don't see how I could love a stranger in the same way that I love Jen. I just don't think it's possible. First of all, I know Jen, and I'm getting to know her more every day, and that fosters, in my opinion, more and more love as I get to know little nuances and her personality, and I get to enjoy her all the time. And there's a closeness that comes from that you can't get with a stranger. Now, if you're talking in a grander sense or in a more general sense about just
attitude, it's a different attitude and way of viewing it. That's all. It doesn't necessarily mean that. Of course, what you've said makes sense, but if you've got the attitude that anyone who comes along, you're going to attempt at least to see them in the light from a love place, and that's significant. I think it does have a big effect on the way you see people and the way you see the world.
Sure. I think it would.
I'd like to hear what people in the chat think. I really would. But if anyone wants to come forward and counter the suggestion, I'm more than happy to listen. Yeah.
So can you put it in the form of a question that they could answer in the chat?
Do you think the concept of attempting to love everyone equally is valid?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
See, he's good with the questions.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked him. Okay, so if you want to take a crack at that big question, go ahead and put it in the chat, and we'll read it.
Did you see Stephanie's response?
I just saw it. Do you want to read it, or should I?
You go ahead.
Okay, so Stephanie says some people leave stuff out like that in case someone who needs it can use it, will be blessed with it.
Oh, I thought about that actually.
Okay. Well, I'm not saying that's wrong, Stephanie, for sure. Maybe I'm negative. Maybe I'm negative in my thoughts, and I should try to look at the positive side of it. Like Stephanie's comment implies. She doesn't imply that I have negative thoughts. I'm just saying it never would occur to me that someone would have left it to benefit someone else. Now, I know some people do that if they leave something on the side of the road or they leave something out in front of their yard. Either the trash person gets it or someone else can have at it. And there are people that do that. Will see a couch. I would never do this, but they would see a couch out in front of someone's yard and take it home. And I can't do that. And I don't know. Man. I don't know what's happened with the couch. I don't know what kind of things have gone on there. So.
I think one of the reasons we are feeling like it's trash is just because these two particular neighbors that we have, they're always leaving trash outside.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's trash bags that have fallen over and there's trash blowing down the breezeway.
Yeah.
And we're just like, what?
Yeah. Yeah, and
So,
yeah,
but I
and
do like your perspective, Stephanie. I do.
yeah, absolutely. There's a rule in our apartment complex about that, and there are pretty hefty fines if you get caught leaving garbage out. And nobody seems to care, and I don't think that they enforce it either. I don't think they enforce it. I think that if they enforced it and people got heavy fines for that, maybe they wouldn't do it anymore. I don't know, but yeah. So these particular neighbors, they were notorious for putting like 2, 3 bags of trash out there. And I'm not really a reporter of people, but these neighbors are no longer with us. But the people that were living in that apartment where the high chair sits, across from where the high chair sits, they had their like 3 big bags, not the smaller like kitchen size bags or the small waste paper basket ones, but the big hefty like leaf bags, the big really big bags full of trash. Three of them out there, and they sat there for a long time. And I did call the apartment complex and let them know, because I had to walk around them when I'd come up the stairs. So sometimes if it doesn't impact me, I won't bother to say anything. But if I've got to walk around a few feet, something that impedes my progress, then yeah, that I guess that's when I report something.
Chris,
Yeah,
can I read a couple of things, please, in the chat?
please do.
Gia says, in response to my question, loving everybody equal question mark, more like do harm to nobody. Agree. Gia says, be at peace with all men. Agree. Liam says, I love all my neighbours, including strangers, as we should do as much as Christ loves us. Agree. Darlene, I think what you're saying is loving everyone equally. You're saying that we all have value. No, question mark. Yes, agree. There you go. So I'm in total agreement with that all of those.
Nice.
Thank you.
Good. Well, yeah. Thank you guys for putting that in there.
Responding.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Okay. Moving on. We answered those ones. So the next one is, how might our belief system be represented in our identity? How might our belief system be represented in our identity? And I'll answer that one first. I think it's a huge part of who we are as people, and it doesn't seem to matter which religion or which faith a person has. It for people that hold that closely or seriously, it's a big deal. For instance, for a Muslim, it's important that they do the things within their religion that are important to them. They hold it close, and they try to at least follow the rules of their religion, and it's meaningful to them, and it shapes every decision they make. You know, if their religion forbids them from doing a certain thing, then they generally avoid it. For instance, in the Muslim religion, they don't eat pork, I believe. So, you know, that's something they don't do. And to me, if I couldn't eat pork, then that would be a bad day for me. I love bacon, and we had pork chops for dinner tonight, and I just can't imagine my life without them. So I would never choose a religion that forbade. I think that's the way you say it. Pork. Anyway, my point is, I think that belief system is a very big part of who we are as people. I think even if we don't believe in anything, that's still a part of who we are. So if you don't believe in anything, you're a person that shapes how you view the world. It shapes your spirituality. It shapes how you view what other people think. It's a huge part of your identity, in my opinion. What do you think, Jen?
I would agree.
Okay. The question, how might our belief system be represented in our identity? So I maybe I didn't answer it quite like that. It's represented in how we treat other people, how we view the world, you know, whether we're kind to others or not kind. I think all of it is based on our belief system. What we believe is incredibly important. So I think it's a huge part of our identity. What do you think, Glenn? How might our belief system be represented in our identity?
If I look at this one under the umbrella of saying God is within you, or God, God. There's no God externally, but there is that God lives within each person. I would say then my answer to the previous question could be actually labelled as a belief system. The belief of treating everyone or attempting to love everyone equally, using your values your values are represented in your identity. So, that's how I would look at it more like that. But ultimately, I don't believe it's that different from. Ouch! What the?
I think that was me hitting my mic.
Someone
Sorry.
I thought Crips had cut his throat.
No, I've got no reason to do that.
What about if that chair gets left out there for another week?
It's not going to make me slip my throat. I can promise you.
Yeah. So I think as I continue to say, there can be a lot of commonality between a belief system, different belief systems, in the way it manifests in our identity.
Sure.
For sure. And I just want to mention Stephanie's got some stuff in caps, which I think you need to address too. But thanks.
Sure. Stephanie says, can one who doesn't see value in themselves truly see value in others? That would mean that one could not love equally. Wow. That's a great question, or a great statement, rather. Okay, the first part's a question. Can one who doesn't see value in themselves truly see value in others? Let's answer that one. Let's unpack that one a little bit. I don't think so. I don't think so. How can you value someone else if you don't have if you don't see any value in you? And unfortunately, the Bible, in my opinion, there's a lot of people that read what Jesus said, that we're supposed to put, or Paul said it actually, on God's behalf, I'm sure, that we should value other people more than we value ourselves. And I get what he means. I feel like I get what he means, but people seem to think that it means that, we don't think about ourselves at all. We don't value ourselves. We put other people's needs before ours. And they would use what Christ did as an example, but Christ admitted that he came, the first time around, he came to serve. I mean, oh my gosh. I mean, what thing could a person do as a service more than give up their life for others, to impact others? So yeah, that's the greatest service a person can give. Paul said, better love hath no man than he that would lay down his life for a friend. So I have a high opinion of someone that is willing to do that. But to me, it doesn't mean not seeing value in who you are, and using what Christ did for an example. Did he, and I brought this up before, but it's a point worth repeating. Did God send his son to die for garbage? And that's a question you have to ask yourself. If he didn't see any value in you as a person, then why did he allow his son to be killed? Why did that ever have to happen in the first place? To me, it answers the question. He sees us as being full of value. He sees us as worth sending his son to save us and to reconcile us to himself. So Stephanie's question is a good one. If you don't see any value in yourself, I don't see, just me personally, I don't see how you can value others. You can do things for others. I mean, if you don't see value in yourself, that doesn't mean that you can't do things for others. A lot of people do. A lot of people that do, it seems like they're always doing for others, and they're frazzled and they're not paying attention to their own health. And that happens all the time. But I think that's whether the person admits it or not, there's another motivation for that. If the person were truly honest, the reason why they do things for other people, but yet when it comes to themselves, they're not willing to take their own health seriously and things like that. What do you think?
I was gonna say, well, that was me. But for me, my love for other people was genuine. I've
Sure.
learned to love myself more and accept myself, and
Sure.
um, which has increased, my
Yeah.
ability to love others.
Yeah.
So it was definitely affected,
Hmm.
but it wasn't like so black and white, whereas I couldn't love others because I didn't see my
Right.
own worth or love myself. There
Right.
was a little bit of love there. It wasn't like completely zero.
Right.
But being a codependent and a people pleaser, I definitely put other people. But I will say, I do think there was a part of me, not the wholeness of who I was, but I do think there was a part of me that did get something out of um, people pleasing.
Sure.
And that was my identity. I think I saw myself as this giving person, and I think I did get some pride from it. And I probably got a little bit of sick pride in like sacrificing myself for other people.
Sure.
I think there was a little bit of that, which is a little disturbing. but, but I can look at it from a healthy standpoint now. Like, okay,
Well, you sure can. You sure
yeah,
can. I'm glad you can recognize that about yourself too, and thank you for being so transparent and honest.
yeah,
Yeah. So, uh, being a people pleaser is generally, I would say, not very good for the person who's caught in that, caught in the
yeah,
people pleasing. Again, you put other people's needs before your own, to the point where it affects your life in a negative way. I think the people that do see value in themselves, I think it sets them up to be able to see value in other people, and not have it affect them negatively. Just my opinion. What
yeah.
do you think about that one, Glenn? I know it's not part of the original questions, but I think it's a good one. What Stephanie said in the chat on this one.
Yeah, well, in the past, my delusional, inverted commas, understanding of self worth came from what I could do for somebody else and put myself at the bottom of the list.
Right.
Hmm.
Sounds like you, Jen.
Yeah,
That definitely was me. But when I had it pointed out to me that I was a beat idiot,
Yeah.
they said, you're not loving those people. You're using them.
hmm.
You're using other people to get off on trying to get some self-worth out of a situation. You're really not loving them. This has nothing to do with love. This is all about your dysfunction. And once I switched that around, and they said, you got to get yourself together, buddy, and start to see that you have value. And until you do that, you can't love anybody.
Right.
So it's proportional. And I think, on reflection, that is exactly how I came to this idea of trying to love everybody equally. Before, in the past, I honestly thought that was garbage. I could not see that as even conceivable until I got my own self worth. Then it made sense. So,
Okay.
but
Yeah.
but you think on reflection, the thought that I was using other people.
Huh.
That's not something you like to put your hand up to, but it's true.
Well, yeah. If you're getting your identity and self worth from externals, meaning other people, by doing for other people or sacrificing yourself for other people, um, I had a point. I guess in a way it is using them.
Sure. Well,
Um,
yeah, anything that you're using someone else to make yourself feel better.
so was I wrong in thinking that was like there was ever a time that it was altruistic?
I think it depends on your
Be honest, guys.
no, I think it depends on your intent. I mean, you're saying, you said earlier when you were talking about your people pleasing, you said that it was genuine.
Yeah.
You
Now I'm
said,
questioning it because of what Glenn said.
Well, I think it's
I'm like,
I think it's genuine within the context of your ignorance. That's how I felt it was.
Ah,
oh, that's good.
and brokenness, not just ignorance, but
Yeah.
brokenness.
Yeah, but
That's a good point.
we needed someone to point it out. I would never have understood this or even comprehended it if someone didn't just say, "Sit back and let's just look at this," and then say to you, "You realise what you're doing." I actually got done to me what I now do to others, if you like.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see that, Chris. Say.
Yeah, I sure can.
Put them right on the spot, because that's what happened to me. This particular person just called me right out and just said, if you want to have a functional existence and a functional relationship, you have to change big time, and that's hard to take because everything you thought was true is now false.
Yeah.
And garbage.
Yeah.
So yeah, there you go.
That's a great point. So I have to ask, who was it that did that called you to task on that?
Your mother.
And that's what I thought. I wanted to have that.
She's the biggest. Well, see, you can be soft with some people because they're sensitive, or you can just be totally blunt and upfront and call you out, and use four letter words. Or I prefer someone who's going to use 4-letter words and lay it out.
Yeah. I've come to appreciate that. I would rather someone call me out and be honest about it rather than think something negatively about me and just keep to themselves and never bring it up. I definitely prefer that, even if it's blunt, even if it's uncomfortable. Just me personally, I would prefer the upfront conversation, bringing it up and talking about it. What can I do to change it if I don't know? I mean, maybe I don't see myself clearly, so someone else sees something or some behavior, and they care enough to bring it up. That's helpful to me. It's actually
helps if they've got a great knowledge of human behaviour and dysfunctional traits.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, the best thing you can ever do is hook up with someone who knows a lot more than you do, and actually be prepared to listen to them.
Yeah. Yeah. That second part is important, to actually listen to them. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's me. I definitely, I listen to people whose opinions I respect. And I think it's beneficial to have people around you that know more about life than you do, or at least somewhat have some knowledge and have some experience that would benefit you in your own life moving forward. That's helpful. Thank you, Gia. Gia says, I would have been very privileged to meet Jason's mother. Thank you. That means a lot. My mother was a great woman, and she might get a bad rap sometimes. I've talked about her a lot on the show, but I've said good things as well as some negative things. And just like any person, she wasn't perfect, and she tried to improve herself. She was one of these people that I talk about that tried to grow and change. She was always working on herself. My mother loved gardening, and I think, in talking about this identity thing, she got a lot of identity from her garden, a lot. She enjoyed going out there and sweating and breaking her back, planting flowers and pulling weeds and planting little trees and watering it and tending to it and things like that. She probably spent more time doing that than any other thing. She was a counselor, so she would go and do her appointments, and then she'd get home and change clothes, and there she'd be out in the garden. And she did it wherever she went. She would have a small apartment which didn't allow anyone to plant anything, and she would find a way to plant something. She didn't care. She would plant something. She didn't care if she got something from the homeowners association saying, hey, you can't do that. And she'd say, okay. And then she'd just leave it. She was pretty defiant in that way, up against the man, so to speak.
Yeah. What sort of a person says, come on, fight with me so I can practice? Like, who does that?
Yeah. Not me.
I was pretty good at that.
Yeah. Gia says, I think people are too selfish to not love themselves. They just demonstrate it in different ways. Okay. Well, thank you for weighing in on that. And then in response to that, Stephanie says, Gia, I think selfish is a strong word, especially if you don't know one story. Okay. Well, that's a fair point. Just let me look at other comments here before we're going to move on here in just a second. Okay, I don't see anything else.
Well, what does a love-hate relationship with yourself look like, as Annette said? What do you see that means?
Love-hate to me, that means that there are parts of yourself that you love and there are parts that you hate, and it's a constant battle between the two. That's what it seems like to me.
I'd love to get an example. Anyone got one?
Sure. I'll use myself for an example. I think there are parts of myself that I've always loved. I love my sense of humor. I love the way my mind works and how I get along with people, things like that. But I didn't like about myself physical that I was. That was interesting. Okay. Middle of pouring my heart out.
What?
You made this huge, like, while I was pouring my heart out.
Use your mute button, Glenn.
Yeah, you should hear that. You should listen to the playback. I mean, maybe you didn't have well, you heard it too. Well, you would hear it. Maybe you muted. I don't know. I don't know if anybody heard that or not. Anyway, okay. Getting back to the example, someone that love-hate relationship. I think it means someone that they love some parts of them and they hate other parts of them. I don't think they're a whole person. I mean, I think the goal is to accept all parts of yourself. It doesn't mean that you don't have things that you work on, but it's accepting yourself for who you are and taking the good things about you, the advantages or the disadvantages or the flaws and the virtues, flaws and the virtues, and accepting them both. If it's a constant battle between the two, I don't think that's any way to live. I think it makes it very difficult. Okay. Is personal identity an illusion? Do we just represent the social order? Is personal identity an illusion? Do we just represent the social order? Why don't we switch things up and we'll go to Glenn first on this one. Is personal identity an illusion? Do we just represent the social order?
Sometimes. Particularly with people who feel they have to conform to the norm. And basically it becomes a case of how much of your identity are you prepared to forgive, essentially, in order to fit in to the social order. I think it's a personal thing. Some people would say you can get stuffed on me and others will bend, as easily as a, sausage or whatever. I don't know, but
yeah.
But it is that some people do. They're not prepared to stand by themselves on their own on their own personal rock. They want to be in. They just want to be a part of a bag of gravel.
Right.
So I think people do. I think it can be an illusion to some people for sure. But to others, no. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, well, the whole virus thing, I think that shined a huge spotlight on part of this, as far as fitting in based on what's accepted or not accepted socially. As for the masks or the mask wearing and things like that, I can't believe when I go out in public, I can't believe how many people are still wearing the masks. I heard recently, a couple things. One is if you got the vaccine, you don't need to wear a mask anymore. It doesn't seem like that's gotten to anybody yet. Or like they heard that. I heard that. I don't even listen to the news very often, but that was a statement that was made recently. But yet I go everywhere, and here in our state, they removed, in many states they've done this, they removed the quote unquote mandate to wear masks in everywhere we go. But yet it still seems like the majority of people are still wearing them. That's a social construct. It's a social order thing. And I was surprised when this whole thing came out. I was surprised how angry people would get if someone didn't agree with them on this particular topic. And I've talked about this before. I'm not going to get into it again, but I found out very quickly that this was suddenly a sticking point for folks. To me, okay, they're saying that there's a virus. Okay, great. Uh, they're suggesting people wear masks. Okay. So, but it seems like it comes down to a personal choice as to whether someone wants to wear one and restrict their breathing and breathe their own CO2, and which isn't healthy for you. There seems to be a lot of agreement on that point. But yet you see people wearing it, not just wearing them, but getting angry at people who decide not to. I mean, huge. Go on YouTube and you can see all these people being publicly shamed. So these are people going against the quote unquote social order. The social order is to wear masks, and if you don't, then you pay the price for that. You have there are social consequences to that, whether it be on social media or on in public comments, whatever. So it's good example that you made, Glenn. That's the first thing that popped up. It made me think of that. For me, personal identity, is it an illusion? I don't know. I don't know if it's an illusion or not. I feel like we're all born with an identity, and that identity gets built through our society, whatever society we live in. For instance, it's different in the West, and I'm sure Glenn would agree with this, having been a world traveler, so to speak. I'm sure he's been in different cultures where the social order is different than, say, in the United States. That's really not a point that can be argued. I mean, that's true. I think everyone would agree on that one. Glenn was talking before the show. We were talking about this idea of people that don't seem like they think anyone else exists. And Glenn was sharing that in Japan, they fall over backwards to let other people go first, and go before them, and they seem to be like really polite, right? Am I mischaracterizing that, Glenn?
No, it's cultural politeness.
Yeah.
That's how they're brought up to be polite.
Right. So, but that's a social order as far as Japan is concerned, where in
Correct.
America, it's not quite that way. It used to be. I mean, my grandparents, I never forget, my grandpa told me, you look people in the eye and you give them a strong handshake. And then, of course, we don't shake hands anymore because you can't touch anybody now. I mean, you can't shake hands and you can't see them smile or anything like that. It's forbidden. So I think that's out the door. I don't even know if men are going to shake hands anymore. I think that might be done. I think they put an end to that maybe. But when I grew up as a young man, there were more than one person. I remember my grandmother, my dad's mom, her mother. So my great grandmother, her first husband died, and I didn't really. There is a picture of him holding me when I was 2. I don't remember him, but she remarried, and she married a gentleman named Hugh X, EGTS, X, and he would always shake my hand, and he would say, "Come on, like do a man's handshake." I never forgot that. He wasn't mean to me. He was very, very kind to me and always happy to see me and things like that. So it wasn't a negative thing for me. But you remember things like that. Looking at someone in the eye, all these things, being polite, letting your word be your bond. Things that at some point were important, or now doesn't seem to be. Kids saying yes ma'am, no ma'am. Here in the South, that used to be a huge thing. Now sometimes you meet someone's kids and they barely look at you.
Yeah.
There's not this politeness that comes from them, and just in general, people don't seem to be as polite as they used to be. So the social order changes. It doesn't stay the same. It changes, and a lot of times, in my opinion, not for the better. But is personal identity an illusion? What do you think, Jen? Is personal identity an illusion, or do we just represent the social order?
I think an identity that's based on social order is an illusion.
Ooh, Bam.
So I think I think personal identity. I agree with what you had said. I think everybody is born with one,
Yeah.
and I think that it's cultivated through as you grow up and
Yeah.
experience life and
Yeah.
go through different things. It shapes who you are.
Yeah.
But I think it can be stunted by social order because you're society's trying to put you in a specific mold
Yes. Yeah.
when the things that you've been through, it shapes you, and you're trying to disregard that shaping and molding
Mhm.
and learning by fitting into this mold that society is laying out for you.
Mhm.
I can't get over it. Anytime I hear somebody's testimony, like this morning, I stumbled upon this YouTube channel that is talking about grown men who have been sexually abused as children. And I was bawling for like hours watching these testimonies. And
Wow.
it's just amazing to me, human resilience, but also just shock. I just am so shocked, like, because the channel is called One in Six. So pretty much they're saying
One
one
and
in six men
yeah.
have been sexually abused.
Wow.
And so when you think about, not that anyone should expect people to walk around and be like, "Hey, I was sexually abused when I was little," everybody. But it's when, especially for men, it's so stigmatized,
Yeah.
even down to feelings, like not sharing feelings, like the our
Sure.
society. Pretty much the only emotion that society deems is acceptable for men to have is anger.
Ooh.
So I can imagine if you're a male and you've been sexually abused as a child, it's incredibly hard
Mhm.
to speak out. So huge kudos to these men. Wow, it just rocked me. But that's just a good example. Because sometimes it's usually in life it's a bowl of things, it's a punch bowl of things, it's positive and negative.
Sure.
Hopefully more of an even mix, but some people have been through more negative than
Yeah.
so how I'm sorry, but if I've been through a really hard life and been through really hard things where to the point where I shouldn't be alive right now, piss off society, like you
Yeah.
know you want me to slap a smile on my face and act like everything's fine? It's not fine.
Yeah.
F you.
Okay. Tell us what you really think, Chad.
So the whole society, what was it? How did he word it? Social order. Ugh,
Yeah.
just makes me want to puke.
Yeah.
Um, I think
So
it's an absolutely beautiful thing when people can be authentic and be
yeah.
just truthful with themselves and with other people with where they're at. And it's not always socially acceptable. Like I think we talked last week, or maybe it was in one of the chats on Tuesday, where I think Darlene was saying something about when people ask how you are, it's the social order to say fine or great, or when,
Yeah.
when you're honest, if you're having a bad day or a bad freaking life and you're honest to say I'm not doing well, it's like
Yeah.
people go cross-eyed.
Yeah.
um well, you asked, like, I'm sorry, were you not being authentic? Why even state if you're not being honest?
Right.
Don't ask me how I am if you don't. Well, I'm sorry, is it only okay for me to say I'm fine if I'm not?
Well,
It's
in
just
some
crazy
cases,
on to shake people.
yes, Jen. Sometimes they don't even really care to get the answer, and yes, they're expecting you just to say fine, and they can move on.
Yeah,
That's it. I think.
yeah.
I
I
think.
guess it is something like shaking hands or holding a door. It's people. I guess maybe people think it's polite to ask, but it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be polite and ask, but in turn, you're gonna be polite and tell me you're fine
Right.
or you're good.
Right.
you
So
know?
it's there's a certain expectation,
Yeah,
unspoken expectation about the way that you should respond.
yeah.
Yeah. Want to say hello to Chow Young Cat who came into the chat. Welcome. And I don't know that I said hello to Gia, so I want to make sure. I apologize, Gia. I know that you've been here for a while, but I don't remember saying hello to you. So I want to say hello to those two folks. And Chow Young Cat says, I struggle with holding myself to higher standards than others. If someone does something, and this is a quote, oh, it's nothing if I do it with who I am. No part of me thinks I'm better than others. It's complicated. Let me read the quote again. Oh, it's nothing. Okay, that's one quote. If I do it, if I do it with who I am. I'm not sure I understand that. Maybe I'm not reading it right. Um, but the part, okay, I struggle with holding myself to higher standards. I get that with more than others. If
I
someone
don't,
does,
I don't, I don't get it. Why would you? Why are you not just holding yourself to your own standards? Why can't you to your standards? Why do you have to compare your standards with somebody else?
Because that's what everybody does. That's my stupid answer.
it's
No,
not stupid.
it's not stupid. It's not stupid at all.
No, that's
But
what I was.
it's a fair question.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. How we seem to get opinions of others seem to weigh more heavily for.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's all right. A little
Cowbell.
ding ding. Yeah. What we need is more
San
cowbell.
Francisco treat. Anybody need some rice-a-roni?
Rice-a-roni. Flavor can't be beat, Jen.
Yeah.
Flavor can't be beat. Oh, all right. Let's move on to the next one. Okay, so we all answered that one. Okay, because we have a lot more questions to get through, and it's almost 10:30 already. Okay, this one is the imperative that we understand and assign some meaning to who we are. Is the imperative that we understand and assign some meaning to who we are? Or is it more relevant to just appreciate the simplicity of the gift and try to live that gift?
Glenn, were you trying to say, is it imperative that we understand, or is the imperative?
Is the imperative.
Which is it? Which is the imperative? Which is more important to you? That we assign a meaning, or do we just get on with it? Do we need to understand it? Do we need to understand?
I think yeah.
Go.
I think yes. I think when you don't, and this is just my opinion based on what I've been through, I feel like this is two-part. If you don't, does that in a way mean that you haven't looked at it and you don't know who you are? But I will say that I've taken a look and I've sort of figured it out who I am. And now I just am without thinking about it.
Right.
So it's very interesting. What do you think, Jason?
Well, I love what you just said. So, when you figure yourself out and you get to a certain point, and then you get to the point where you're not thinking about it anymore, it's become part of who you are. Understanding yourself, understanding who you are, you do it to a certain point, and then it's like cruise control. You don't have to think every day, okay, who do I want to be today?
Yeah.
It becomes just part of your personality. I think that was a good point.
Okay.
I would agree with you, Jen, that there should be some understanding of who you are. There should be some meaning in that for you as a person. At least there is for me. Yeah, who I am is important. But I also agree with the second part, to appreciate the simplicity of the gift of who we are and try to live that gift. So I'll tie the two together, Glenn's question and what Jen said. So assign some meaning. Okay, I'm saying this to myself about myself. So I will assign meaning to who I am and understand myself as much as I can, as much as is possible. And then at that point, appreciate the gift and just live in that, live in who I am, live in the knowledge that I've assigned, my understanding of who I am. And as I said earlier, appreciate both my virtues and my challenges. Nobody's perfect. So I know that I'm not perfect, and I know myself enough to know what my limitations are and the things that I struggle with. But the things I struggle with are things that I work on. I don't just say, okay, well, I struggle with this and I'm okay with that. That's not what I mean. I mean, being okay with it in terms of knowing that I'm still a good person, even if there's something that I am struggling with or challenged by. It doesn't remove your value as a person because you struggle with something.
Yeah. If anything, it increases it.
Right. For example, people that struggle with substance abuse, um, they're stigmatized in society, and sometimes they do it to themselves. I mean, obviously, someone that's high on crystal meth and they go and kill people on a meth binge. Yeah, I'm not going to think too highly of those types of people. But in general, people that just struggle with addictions, I don't automatically think, oh, they're just pieces of crap.
Yeah, or like a deadbeat or
Right.
something. No.
Right. They're people, and obviously they're taking substances to cover over or medicate something bad that's happened to them or something that's missing. And then so I would tend to more care about that type of person and want to help them or want to why I would want them to figure out why they're doing that.
Yeah.
But I don't automatically think, oh, because if someone struggles with something, that it means they're a piece of crap. I don't do that. Okay, so did everyone answer this, Glenn? Did you answer this?
Nope.
Okay, go
There we
ahead,
go.
please.
Jen, I was impressed with what you said. I just want to take you back when we first started talking, a couple of years ago.
Uh-huh.
One of the things I said to you, I think you're overcomplicating this. You have been known
No
to
surprise.
do that. but I said at some point when you've done this work, it will just be it will be as it is. You won't even have to think about it. You will be on autopilot. That's the first part of that. That work you did was assigning the meaning. And now you're free because it just is to enjoy the simplicity of the gift.
Right.
So I don't think you can get to the second part unless you do work on the first part.
So good, Glenn. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, because with me, I grew up not doing that. I never took the time. I was never showed. I never looked at it like that. So I just never did that work to find the meaning. And so for me, it put me in a position where I was open to having somebody else come along or people around me even. How people responded to me was how I saw myself,
Mm.
you know. So I judged who I was based off of people's reactions of me, which makes complete sense of how I was so screwed up because I had a dad that was really angry and like flipping out a lot. So I took that in as something was wrong with me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I had toxic friends growing up, and so when I broke my elbow falling off a horse and my friend got pissed off at me and pretty much unfriended me back in the 80s
Right.
because the EMTs had to cut her shirt. I had a shirt on that I was borrowing from her that her mother gave her. And so even in that small, well, it was kind of a big deal, hurtful in that, a big deal way. But I took it as that external thing for because of this friend and how she reacted to this situation that happened to me, which was an accident. I took it as this piece of clothing is worth more than I am.
Yep.
So that's just one of many, situations where I was gauging my worth and who I was based off of other people's reactions and how they treated me.
Sure.
But now it's completely flipped.
So Jen, you placed more value in what others thought of you than the value you placed on what you thought of yourself.
Yeah. Definitely.
And as soon as you turn that around, it all changed.
It all changed.
Fair comment?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Completely.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're in a different place with that for sure, because I think it's a pretty miserable place to be in if you're gauging your value as a person on what other people think. Because what if you continued with that, Jen, and that message that your quote unquote friend gave you about her precious shirt being more important than you, unfriending you before there was ever any social media was you called someone or you went over to their house, that was it.
Yeah.
If you would carry that along with you your whole life, I mean, gosh, I can't think of too many more things that would be a travesty or a tragedy than something like that.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that person was messed up. I mean,
Yep.
yeah, I understand you being upset about a shirt your mom gave you, but more important than someone's arm of someone that you call a friend. Yeah, I can't really stretch my imagination that far in that way, for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty messed up.
Yeah.
And I think even being in the position of having other people and their reactions and interactions with me showing me my worth and who I was and my identity, all that stuff, I think it attracted more of the same people that treated me bad because I felt bad about myself.
Yeah.
And so it just kind of opened the door for people that treated me that way. It was almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sure.
Um,
Sure. Well, I feel like you're a person that's full of high value, and I'm glad that you choose friends now that that see you. I think we should all choose people that see us, and not people that treat us like we're garbage. I don't see the benefit of that at all.
no.
So I'm glad your view of yourself has changed. I really am. 'Cause
Yeah, I wouldn't cop it now, as Glenn would say.
wouldn't cop it now.
I would literally laugh and be like, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Here's you. Oh, you ruined my shirt. Here's me. Bye-bye. Right. Okay, let's move on. So the next one is what does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person actually mean? What does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person actually mean? I'll go with this one first. When I was probably 12 or 13 years old, the church that we went to used to have on the weekends, they used to have youth meetings or whatever. I can't think of what you would call them, but like um, the people that go to the church would get together, and the youth pastor, who I didn't like, by the way, that's neither here nor there, but he would. I guess the one good thing is he would do these things on the weekends, and so you could come. It was at night or late afternoon, like 7 p.m. to 10, something like that. And we would all meet, and he would show movies, and we would have popcorn and cookies and the refreshments, I think they used to call it back then, and just kind of hanging out. Well, there was I never forget this. So there was a movie, and some of the movies were like Christian movies, quote unquote Christian movies. And then other ones were like classics. I remember he showed Pygmalion once.
What's
And
that?
it's My Fair Lady, the original version of My Fair Lady.
Oh, had no idea there was another version.
Well, yeah, originally it wasn't called My Fair Lady; it was called Pygmalion. So it's the same, pretty much the same story. Street urchin, two rich people make a bet that they can take this woman who doesn't speak properly and turn her into a high society member.
Gotcha.
So the whole movie is about that, about him working with her, changing the way she talks, putting her in dresses, teaching her how to walk, teaching her social grace and things like that. And then, of course, as these stories go, he falls in love with her, but then at the end, she realizes that he'd made this bet about her, and it was all a planned thing to win a bet, and you know how it goes.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is, one of the movies, the Christian movies that he showed, was called Head Games, was the name of it. And it was about this topic. It was people were at a party, and they were all wearing masks. And the kind of masks they're wearing are the kind of half see-through ones that just cover the face. And some of them had smiles, and some of them had other things on it. But everyone was wearing one. And then the one main character wearing a mask goes off into the kitchen, and the camera's there, so she's talking to the camera, and she takes her mask off. So her mask was all smiling. She takes her mask off, and underneath it, she wasn't happy. And I don't remember the exact words that she said, but the basics of the whole movie was that we all wear masks, and why don't we be honest about who we are? Take the mask off and be real. That's what it was about. And I never forgot that. So when I saw this question, what does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person actually mean? I believe a lot of us wear masks. I believe a lot of us hide who we really are from others all the time, all the time. And I've observed this in other people. I don't think that most people are honest or authentic or real about who they are. And a lot of it could be, Glenn had mentioned social order in one of the questions. A lot of it is social constructs, and you wouldn't dare show everyone who you are. You wouldn't dare be honest. And there's all kinds that we've talked about in churches. Why can't you go to a church and be honest about your struggles? And we talked about that recently.
Yep.
It's because people are afraid of being exposed. They're afraid that people won't respond well if they were to share their struggles with someone else. The idea in churches, in a lot of churches, is, well, yeah, as a quote unquote Christian, I need to represent myself as everything's fine and I'm doing real well in my life and God blesses me and blah blah blah. Well, that's not always the truth. So even in churches, people wear masks. I think, and I could be wrong, but this is my opinion. I think that very few people go into life without a mask on. So, in reference to the question Glenn is asking here, what does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person? It means exactly that. It means, when do you stop being whatever person you think everyone else wants to see and reveal yourself wholly to someone else? When do you be authentic about who you are? That's what I think it means. I don't think that one's too complicated. What do you think, Jen?
I think that was beautifully said.
Oh,
My goodness. What does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person actually mean? Gosh, being vulnerable.
Mhm.
And I think when you get to a place where your being okay isn't attached to how people react to seeing you, who
Mhm.
you really are,
Mhm.
it becomes so much easier.
Sure.
When you're just solely focused on and even trying to control, because I think wearing a mask is kind of a form of control. It's trying to control how people see you. It's
Sure.
trying to control how people react to you. What
Sure.
does that actually mean? Yeah, being vulnerable. That's my answer.
Okay.
It's being vulnerable. And now it doesn't mean you're like a turtle without a shell. I don't mean vulnerable in that sense. I
Right.
mean, it can be. You can get hurt. Like, that can happen. But it's not, trying to serve yourself up for being pummeled.
Right.
But it's just being you. Just
Right.
you being you, and saying, okay, if people don't like me, that's fine, whatever. I'll find people that do.
Yeah. Yeah. You mean like transparent?
Yeah.
That kind of vulnerable. You're being
Yeah,
being
yeah.
open,
Thank you.
open
That's a
and
better
transparent.
word.
Gotcha. Okay. No.
Authentic. Authentic. I think that was the word I was looking for, authentic. But transparent's great too.
Okay. Great. Thank you. What about you, Glenn? What does take off the mask and reveal yourself to another person actually mean?
Here I am. Ask me any question you like, and I won't tell you any lies.
Okay.
Short and simple.
Oh, excuse me. Do you think what I said is true? Do you think that most people wear a mask, or do you think that's not true?
I think most people wear a mask. I think that they may selectively take it off at times, but I think they put it back on pretty fast.
Right.
I
Right.
think that the next questions will probably will sort of cover some of that.
Okay. Great.
Thanks.
Next one is it laying everything out without caring how much you embarrass yourself? Is it laying everything out without caring how much you embarrass yourself? Um,
I don't think of it as embarrassing myself, but yeah, laying everything out, sure. I do know that
I'm sorry, Jen. Let me go back. I should have read. Okay, so above these questions that we're asking, in the context of an unfinished life, we ask, is laying everything out without caring how much you embarrass yourself? Is it laying everything out? Sorry.
That's okay. Hold on.
In context of an unfinished life.
I'm just trying to get to where it's written out. There we go. Okay. Um, Gosh, this is interesting. I don't see me as laying everything out as being embarrassing.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if I was overly focused on how people were going to react or respond, maybe I might think of it as being embarrassing. But now I just am so have embraced, who I am, that
Yeah.
it's not necessarily embarrassing per se.
Right.
Uh, does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I'm glad you're not embarrassed. I mean, be who you are. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, that doesn't have to be embarrassing. So I would say, uh, if you get to the point where you can lay everything out, in other words, like the top question says, take off the mask and reveal yourself to another, lay everything out without caring how much you embarrass yourself. To me, being authentic isn't embarrassing. It may make the other person uncomfortable if they're not used to someone being authentic,
Yeah.
but that's not your
True.
problem.
Nope.
That's their problem. That's someone else's issue. So I don't think it has to be embarrassing, and in fact, I don't think it is. What do you think, Glenn?
I should clarify. As part of the previous part of the write-up, well, really, we were asking how many people can we actually really take off the mask to and the assertion really is that it's going to be very, very few. So I'm thinking of it in the context that you are prepared to take off the mask, and when you consider whether you're going to do it, is this embarrassing? And I think for a lot of people it can be very embarrassing if you've never done it before, if
Yeah,
you've never felt comfortable with another
Good point.
person to ever lay yourself out. And
sure.
because let's face it, what goes on between two people is not what we see outside.
Right.
We see people here in a controlled environment. Who knows when a couple gets together that it's not entirely different.
Right.
So I think there are things that people could find embarrassing, and I think for many people they have a history of that, and I think it's difficult to get over. But if you are laying yourself out, and that to me, that's just an automatic part of the deal. You do it, and you don't care how it gets responded to because it's important. Or the imperative is that you show yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Great. This is great. All right. We got through that one. The next one is it exposing your behaviors and attitudes as they really are? No political correctness. Yeah. I think an unfinished it's exposing your behaviors and attitudes as they really are. No political correctness. I'll start with the last part. I hate political correctness.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is just fake. It is talk about social order.
And fear.
Yeah, someone else is deciding what they think people should act like, and they're pushing that on others
Mm-hmm.
to the point of ridiculousness, where you can't use certain words because people will be offended. In some cases, yeah, of course, we shouldn't say horrible things that offend people. Okay, I mean, there should, in my opinion, there should be a certain level of expectation that yes, you don't say horrible things to people, but sometimes a word is just a word. It's not meant to be offensive to anyone, and you can't protect everybody's little fragile ego. I mean, you can't do that. But political correctness attempts to do so to the point where you are just controlled at every step and what you say. You're supposed to be able to have free speech, but they're changing that. I mean, here on YouTube itself, there are a lot of channels, and I've mentioned this before. There are a lot of channels that, because people don't agree with what they're saying, they just cut their feed. It's like, nope, you can't talk about that. You can't. I'm going to use an example that doesn't apply. So let's say people don't like Biden. So someone creates a channel and they talk negatively about Biden, and that person's channel gets cut. You can't say anything negative about the president. Well, I don't think that's right.
Where was that rule last term?
Yeah, right. Where was that rule last term? Yeah. Yeah, it seems like when there's a Republican president there, that rule doesn't apply. But if it's a Democrat, then yeah, all rules are in place. You can't say anything negative about a Democrat for sure. What do you think, Jen? Exposing your behaviors and attitudes as they really are, no political correctness.
Um, Completely agree because I think manners, and how you approach somebody about something is different than political correctness. I think political correctness is fear based.
Yeah,
And I do think it is a little bit codependent because it's almost like from the other side from what you explained and described, the pushing, your expectations on other people.
yeah,
I think it's trying to control somebody's reaction
sure.
to something that you're sharing while you're trying to be authentic. Now, I still think it's great to have manners and tact, not be
Yeah,
crass or an ass. That
right,
rhymed.
right.
Um, but yeah, I do think it is exposing your behaviors and attitudes as they really are. I think
Yeah,
that's it, just being you, being real.
yeah, yeah. For example, there's this whole thing about gender fluidity and people wanting to be called certain pronouns. He, she uh, is out, and it's them. You call them them or it or I don't know. I don't know what all they use, but they're trying to make calling someone male or female, him or her, be wrong. Because we shouldn't assume that someone's a man or a woman based on what they look like, and we certainly should ask the person what they want to be called, and that's something I refuse to comply with. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have a job where that's an issue, but if I worked at somewhere where there was a person there that demanded to be called they instead of her, or honestly, if that were the case, I would just ask them what their name was. They tell me their name, and I call them that. You
That's a
know,
good idea.
they get mad at me for calling them by their name instead of using a pronoun, then again, that's their problem, not mine. I'm not gonna bow to that particular political correct ridiculousness. Just using that for an example. What do you think, Glenn? Exposing your behaviors and attitudes as they really are, no political correctness.
Okay.
Apologies.
Oh,
No, my wall builder just came to the door. That's all right. I hadn't seen him for 3 months. It's all good. I'll just sort him out. Yeah. Um, you caught me short there, Crips, because I got up. It's the exposing your behaviours and attitudes. Yeah, well, look, I think you just got to say give your opinion, be who you are, and the person that's with you is going to give their opinion back.
Yeah,
Just be straight out with it. I mean,
yeah,
we all disagree at times, and if someone thinks that, like, someone said something that's out of order, you say so. What's
yeah,
the problem?
right.
Give your opinion.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Next one is it showing freely the ridiculous and funny alongside the serious and imperfect you? Yes.
yes.
This is what I was referring to earlier. So you accept your own virtues and flaws. This is just expressed in a different way. Is it showing freely the ridiculous and funny alongside the serious and imperfect you? Yes, yes, yes. Emphatically, yes. I agree with this one. I love it. I love both Jen's funny and ridiculous side just as much as I love the serious. I wouldn't use the word imperfect to describe Jen.
I would.
Well, that's up to you. If you want to use that, then you certainly can. But I'm saying I wouldn't use that word. To me, she's perfect. So, um, but I speaking honestly, I like the parts of Jen that aren't perfect. I'm not expecting her to be perfect. I don't know anyone. I have yet to meet someone that is. So without those expectations, there's no there. I'm not missing anything. I'm not mad at her when she's not perfect. I'm not upset or anything like that. And she is hilarious and funny. I'm sure you guys have picked up on that. And she has a wonderful personality, and I'm delighted by that. Speaking about myself, the same thing. I have ridiculous and funny parts in me, and I have serious and imperfect parts. The point is, yes, in my opinion, showing these freely, both parts, all of us, all of who we are, taking the mask off, whether it's embarrassing or not, and showing these sides to us that are part of who we are, part of our identity, is extremely important. What do you think, Glenn?
100%. I had this conversation with Sandra, and we just said basically that 95% of being together is ridiculous and funny.
Yeah.
And it's just a riot. But but when you look at some scenarios where people are just always serious, I just don't see how that gets you anywhere.
No.
Because there's a time to be serious, but when you have to, obviously. But no,
Right.
for us, it's vital to do that. I mean, how do you get over some of these so-called obstacles if you're not being ridiculous and funny?
Right.
You just can't. It's a way of coping
Right.
as well. So,
Right. I agree.
yeah, I think it is an imperative in any relationship that there's fun.
Agreed.
Completely agree.
What about you, Jen? I mean, you what do you think about that one? I mean, I know you agreed. I know you already agreed, but do you want to say anything more about it?
I think you guys both said it beautifully. I don't know if I could add on to that. Your
Okay.
answers.
Okay. Next one, is it sharing when you are upset and hurt and showing it without reservation? I'll let you go with this one, Jen. I know what I'm going to say already, so why don't you take that one? Sharing when you're upset and hurt and showing it without reservation. What do you think?
Ooh, this one's been a tough one for me. I know, yes, I will say yes, but growing up with an angry parent, it just made me grow up thinking anger was like the last thing I ever wanted to have or do or express. It just was so ugly and scary to me.
Yeah.
But gotten to a place where the Bible says, what is it? Get angry but sin not.
Yeah, be angry but
Be
sin not.
angry. I was like, what's that word again? Oh yeah, be.
Okay.
But allowing yourself, to get angry and not sinning, that's it's very therapeutic and it's real. It's authentic.
Yeah.
So yeah, sharing when you're upset and hurt. Being with someone who wants me to share and be upset and to be authentic in it, when it happens.
Yeah.
Is incredibly helpful, especially having spent a lifetime walking on eggshells.
Sure.
Up until recently, having a safe place to do so when you're allowed to just be, and that's a funny word, allowed. Now it is a choice, a personal choice for you to be who you are, just to be, but it is incredibly helpful when you're with someone who's not trying to stifle that or put you in a mold, of somebody that you're not. So the question was, is it sharing when you were upset and hurt and showing it without reservation? I would say yes.
Yeah.
Again, using tact and manners and stuff. Well, there's been a couple times I've gotten mad about past stuff and you've seen my anger and I've thrown dishes.
Yeah.
So, but it was authentic.
Yeah, sure.
I was really angry.
You were really angry. Yes, you
Yeah.
were really angry.
Not at Crips, just to let the crowd know.
Well, I would say you say that, but the the particular items that you decided to break were my items. So I was a little confused at first, for sure.
Yeah, I should have picked different items.
We got through it though. We got through it.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we did.
Okay. Absolutely on this one. I have told Jen many, many times, if you're upset and you don't share it, if you're stuffing those feelings, it doesn't just hurt you. It hurts the other person who cares about you. I want Jen to share with me when she's upset or hurt, and I want to be able to share that with her. I struggle too with that sometimes. It's not because I have an issue sharing how I feel if I'm upset. It's that I don't think anyone cares. So why would I share it?
Hmm.
I isolate. I've talked about this before. I tend to isolate. If I'm upset and hurt, I keep to myself because in the past I've shared with other people. They don't give a darn. Most people, they don't care. They don't care if you're upset and hurt. In fact, 9 times out of 10, they're the ones that hurt you. So of course they're not going to care. That may be a pessimistic view of people, but that's how I feel about it. Now, I know with certain people, they do care. I feel like Glenn cares. If I were to reach out to him and say, hey, I'm really angry or hurt about this situation, he'd probably ask me questions, to explain how I'm feeling. And that's fine. But I don't think he'd be apathetic. Worse than that, I don't think that he would look down on me because I'm being open and honest about how I feel. But in society, there's a real stigma to sharing your feelings. So you're not supposed to share that you're upset. My family, not just my parents, but my extended family, and maybe it's generational. People seem to use that excuse a lot. Well, it's just generational, And we when we grew up, we didn't share our feelings. That's not a good thing. That's not something to stand behind and say, oh, well, I didn't learn how to share my feelings, so I'm just going to not tell my kids how much I love them or anything. That's not good. That's not a good thing. So for your kids to grow up and not know that you love them, that's not something to be proud of. So the idea that it's generational doesn't fly with me at all. So sharing when you're upset and hurt and showing it without reservation to me is super important.
Yeah.
For many reasons. I think it damages relationships. If you're upset and you're not sharing it with your partner, it builds up. It's not going to go
Oh, yeah.
anywhere. It's
Yeah.
going to build up and build up and build up until you're upset about stupid things like, oh, you didn't put the cap back on the toothpaste.
Or the toilet seat down.
Right. People don't break up because of a toilet seat or a cap on toothpaste. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
They break up because someone's not talking.
Yeah.
Someone's not sharing their true feelings with the other person. And then over time, it builds up and builds up until it explodes. And then you get a laundry list of all the things you've done wrong for the past 10 years. No thanks. No thanks. I'm not going to be part of that. So if a person that I'm with is not sharing their feelings, I have to take a pass. I have to take a pass on that because I'm not going to deal with the list of 10 years of stuff. I'm not going to do that. Fortunately, I don't have to worry about that. Jen does share feelings. And yes, I understand that, she she struggles with that a little bit, but she does a great job, and she's
getting better.
She's getting better and learning how to do it.
Yeah. Well, it really helps when the person that you're with tells you, even if it's not logical, and even if I don't understand or agree, I still want you to share.
Right.
No
Right.
matter what, share. So
Yes.
that's a big deal.
Yes. Okay. You bring up a great point that I have to comment on. Yeah. It's not necessary that you agree with how the person feels. You may not agree. Person says, I feel angry about something you did. And you think, I didn't, no. A person can be angry with you. You don't have to agree for their reason of being angry. It's validating them. Okay, you have feelings. You're a person with feelings, and I validate the feeling that you have. Not agreeing with it, not saying that I did what it is you accuse me of, but I understand what you're feeling, and you have a right to feel that way, even if you're wrong. What do you think, Glenn? Sharing when you're upset and hurt and showing it without reservation.
Well, I think some people would positively cringe if they heard Sandra and I speak to each other. You've heard it.
Yeah.
And it could be construed as pretty heavy.
Yeah.
But I think it's essential. And if Sandra thinks that I'm an effing idiot, I expect her to tell me.
Yeah.
So that I expect no reservation. But the deal is, in all of this banter and stuff and being sharing and if you're upset, hurt, etc., is that it's never done with vitriol or angst.
Yeah.
It's always done. It's just what you feel in the moment, and immediately the deal is you get over it. You don't carry it outside that room. It's over, done with. So in that sense, it just complements what we've been saying in previous shows. Share what you feel. Do it in the moment. If you're upset, demonstrate that you're upset. Don't hold back. Give it straight, and then move on.
Yeah.
There's no hassle then. The relationship is in fact stronger for you sharing. Why wouldn't you share it? That's the question. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
And especially in the beginning of a relationship, it's a great way to take the temperature of the relationship, the connection, and the person. Because if you're being forthright and sharing right away how you feel, how that person reacts, that it's a lot of information to give you.
Yes. What have I said to you about that, Jen?
I don't remember. Can you tell me again?
Give me the opportunity.
Yes.
To react to
respond.
To respond whatever you're feeling or going through. If you don't tell the person, then you don't give them any opportunity to do anything to help or to show you that they care or anything. It's just, it doesn't happen. Okay. Is it asking when you want something and not feeling guilty or anxiety for doing so? Is it asking when you want something and not feeling guilt or anxiety for doing so?
Oh, yeah.
You want to take that one, Jen?
Yeah, I keep having to go in the context of an unfinished life. Okay. Yeah, I think it's important, just like the one before this question, to just put it out the table right away.
Yeah.
You know, I did this a lot for a long time, my entire life, up until 3 years ago, where I would want something and bite my tongue.
Yeah.
I would always feel like it was going to be putting someone out or make them mad or be in a position. I didn't want to be a bother. But it created a bitterness in me. And it created a bitterness toward the other people, like they were doing something, but how can it be their fault if I'm not the one saying anything?
Right.
It's just, people are not mind readers, you know?
Right.
But I just was so stuck in that place for years upon years upon years.
Yeah.
Of wanting people to know me enough to know what I wanted or needed.
Yeah.
But I didn't speak up for myself and share how I was feeling at all. And they didn't know the real me because I wasn't really being the real me. I was trying to be this version of a person that people around me, I felt like they wanted me to be.
Right.
It just was like Annette said a few chat lines up, you know, games. I didn't see it as that. I wasn't trying to play games, but I just was stuck in a freaking game of my own making, in a sense, without even realizing it. So yeah, you know, sharing that stuff is really, really important. How you feel.
Yeah.
Sharing how you feel, and not getting anxiety. Wait, what is it? Not feeling guilt and anxiety for doing so. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, it's if you can look at it as a relief of like, I did it, you know, no matter how the person reacts, I did it. I spoke my truth. I shared how I felt in the moment. So I'm not having to carry that burden any longer.
Right.
What happens, you know, but I did right by myself, by speaking up.
Right.
So.
Perfect. I don't think I need to say anything about that. I'll agree with what Jen said. I agree 100%. Asking when you want something, not feeling guilty or anxiety for doing so. I've asked for this from Jen. You know, I know that she has in the past struggled in this area. She doesn't want to be a bother, and I'll just comment on that briefly. That's something she said to me more than once. I didn't want to bother you. I don't want to be a bother. And I don't care how many times I have to say it to her. You're not a bother. You're never a bother. I don't care what I'm doing. You're important to me. You're a priority to me. If I'm in a situation where, you know, I'm working or something like that, I'll just be straight up. If she needed me, if she's having a rough time and it has to be dealt with right then forget the job. I mean, honestly, and people may disagree with that, but I grew up in a family where my dad, his work was more important than us. He missed a lot of things, and it's not just about him missing my plays and not showing up for things. It's about him not being available to me growing up because he was working. But he's available for people he works for, They'll call him on a weekend when he's supposed to be off, and they know we need this done. And he would pack up and go and do it. And there are a lot of people that say, well, that's a good work ethic. You know, they called him on a weekend. He's not supposed to be working, and he just goes and takes care of it. Yeah, sometimes. But I would say that if he was responding to his family, and if he was available to his family, and then also on the weekend, his employer said, hey, we need you to come in, and all that other stuff was in line and taken care of, then I've got no problem with him going in and doing something for, or anybody doing that for an employer. I guess my point is that people come first, relationships come first, and Jen's not a bother to me. That's the bottom line. She's never a bother. And fortunately, I think she's finally believing that she's never a bother to me, nor could she ever be. So there you go. What do you think, Glenn, on this one? Asking when you want something, not feeling guilt or anxiety for doing so.
Well, if I say to Sandra, I like to put purple tiles with yellow polka dots on the floor. Well, that's what I want. Well, she can say, okay. Or she can say, I don't like it. Or she can say, that's compromise. I mean, declaring yourself gives the other person the perfect opportunity to declare themselves as well. So they tell you what they want at the same time in the conversation. It's all over.
And it's not some big secret drawn out.
Nothing. You just ask for it. A quick one for Darlene. She said an example of passive aggressive. I'll give her one. Hey, Darlene, you and I are going to go to the movies. And I say to you, Darlene, would you like to pick a movie? And you say, no, you pick it. She says, Glenn, you pick the movie. And I say, okay. And I say, well, I'd like to go and see Blade Runner. And then you say, no, I don't like that. See that? Well, on the one hand, she's passive because saying, Glenn, you pick. But on the other hand, when it comes to the crunch, she's aggressive by saying, I don't like it.
Right.
Whereas what she should have done was said, well, I don't really, and if I'd said, given her a movie, and she'd say, what should have happened is we jointly decide who's going to pick the movie, and if you say, Glenn, pick the movie, that's the end of the story.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the deal. That's the deal. You have made the deal. You pick it. But when you come in at the end of the line and say, I don't want to go see Blade Runner, well, that's out of order.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Maybe someone else can give another example for sure.
No, that's good. I would just add to that. To me, passive aggressive means what they're saying coming out of their mouth might sound passive, but what their behavior says is that they're aggressive about it. I think your example is fine, Glenn. So to me, passive aggressive comment is one that sounds like it's pleasant and all that, but the way it's worded and the attitude of the person tells you that they're not sharing something. They're very aggressive in the way that they present their passive statement. Okay. Next one. What else forms part of the great reveal? Is what many describe as reveal, not reveal at all. I'm going to go to you, Glenn, because I'm not sure I understand what you're asking here. What else forms part of the great reveal is what many describe a reveal, not reveal at all.
I've been having conversations with people over a little while, and I've asked this question in terms of do you reveal yourself by way of communication? And many times the answer comes back yes. But when I hear what reveal means, it's none of the above. Reveal just basically, in many cases, says, I like steak on the barbecue. So what I'm suggesting is that what each person sees as reveal can be very, different based on what their past experiences are, their upbringing, the nature of their personality.
Sure.
But ultimately, I see many do not reveal, or many don't actually understand or comprehend that reveal means everything, not just a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
Okay.
So as to what else forms part of the great reveal, I just couldn't think of any more, but I specifically put those examples in just to show what does form part of reveal, and I think that it was a pretty reasonable sort of cross section there.
Sure. I think what I got most out of everything you said was that to some people, what someone else considers a big reveal for them isn't anything, and then other people, something really tiny is a big deal to them. They're really trying to reveal something, where to someone else they'd say, "Well, no, that's nothing." Yeah, it all depends on the
all
perspective.
relative.
Yeah, it's all relative.
Relative, that's the word.
Relative. What do you think, Jen?
What else forms part of the great reveal? I don't know what to add to that.
Okay.
But yeah, I like what Glenn said about it. Somebody over here may think reveal means, what's your favorite movie? What's your favorite food? That kind of stuff.
Right.
But like, to me, it's revealing your soul, which is a beautiful thing. And to some people that's terrifying.
Yeah.
So they have to stick to the more surfacey stuff.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my answer.
Okay. So what are the advantages and disadvantages of taking off the mask completely, being totally honest with yourself, and revealing all to another person as well as to yourself? Yeah, that would take a long time to answer all the potential things related to this one, but I'll just say there are lots of advantages, and to me, the disadvantages aren't worth mentioning because the advantages of taking the mask off, being open, being authentic, being totally honest, outweigh any disadvantages. I would have to think about what the disadvantages of doing that are. I can't think of any right offhand. Maybe that it'd be hard, it'd be difficult to take the mask off, especially at first. But once that initial shock is over with, you're being open, honest, and authentic, regardless of whether people are doing the same to you.
Yeah,
you're doing that, and there's so much life,
freedom,
so much joy that comes from doing that. I can't ever go back. I mean, I was saying earlier, and I admit I have had times in my life when maybe I was open and authentic and honest in certain areas, but then there were other areas that I kept close to the vest or kept to myself. And for good reason, because there's people out there that I just frankly aren't trustworthy. I wouldn't trust them with my true feelings and my heart's desires. I just wouldn't do that. But now I may still not share myself with everyone, but I'm always going to be authentic with anyone. That's where I'm at now.
Beautiful answer.
Well, thank you. What do you think, Jen?
I would agree.
Okay.
Advantage, disadvantages. I mean, you took my answer. One of the disadvantages is that, and somebody mentioned this in the chat earlier, but I think it was Stephanie, how there are people out there that dig for gold, and they try to find out, personal stuff about you to use it against you later. That's why the red flags are really good to learn and look out for, and to not, for me, I had parts of me that were very naive and very wanting to connect with people, that I overshared too quickly. Now I'm a lot more cautious. Like, I'll still be authentic, and open, but I'm just, I vet people. I'm like, okay,
that's smart. That's smart. I think that's okay.
But the advantages are freedom, light, in the sense of the weight. I don't think I realized how much weight I was carrying by just trying to be what I thought everybody else wanted me to be, and what my ex told me that he wanted me to be, and then finally figuring out who I am, and not just figuring it out, but accepting it and embracing it. There's just such a freedom to it. It's amazing. Like Glenn mentioned earlier, autopilot. It just clicks and moves into this autopilot place. and you're not, I just didn't, I don't think I realized how much energy I was wasting. It was self-focused in a sense. It wasn't like, oh, I'm the bomb and I'm, a bag of chips or whatever they
Yeah.
used to say. uh, but it was like this self-focus on what I didn't like about myself, and was I doing things the way people wanted me to, and was I the person, was I cool, was I this, was I that, ugh. um there's just so much energy, negative energy, and weight that you carry. So when you finally get to that place where you can just let all that crap go and embrace who you are, um there's just so much more time and energy to put toward other things.
Yeah.
It's just
True.
it's so wonderful.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Thanks, Jen.
yeah.
All right, Glenn. Advantages and disadvantages of taking the mask off completely, being totally honest with yourself, and revealing all to another person as well as to yourself.
Great disadvantage of oversharing with someone who is a poor choice to share with.
Oh, okay.
That's for sure. A huge advantage to share someone who is a good choice to share with.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Short, sweet.
Well, it's a lot of things.
He said short and sweet.
Short and sweet. Okay, good. Next one. To those who have been hurt in the past, how relevant is prior hurt in the decision to reveal or not reveal in the future? How difficult is it to overcome the fear of rejection and possible revenge motives? Are those negative experiences ever able to be put to one side? This is a great one. Yeah, I think it's very relevant. I think past hurts affect a lot of people and do prevent them from sharing in the future. Why wouldn't they? I think that's natural. I mean, it's the same thing of if you burn yourself on the grill, you put your hand on the grill for the first time, not knowing how hot it is. You're probably not going to do that same thing again. So the same thing works if you've been hurt in the past. I think you're going to be more reluctant to trust people in the future. And I think Jen just said she vets people. Well, that's all that's necessary. I don't think that you have to be a person that doesn't share anything with anyone. And then also, Glenn added a lot with his comment just then. So it's who you share with, who you choose to share things with is extremely important. But don't be someone that refuses to share based on things from the past. That's just my opinion. It can be very difficult to overcome fear of rejection. I have talked about this before, but just a few times that I might have been rejected when it was kiddie playtime, like when I was a kid, and do you like me? Check the box, and they checked the no, I don't like you box.
Aw.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, that's rejection, regardless of whether you're old or young. And I was so afraid of rejection that I avoided even putting myself in that place. And then, as I've shared in the past, my first marriage, the very thing that I was afraid of happened, and it was hard, but I got through it. So I'm not going to let the fear of anything keep me from living my life anymore. I mean, I did learn from that, even though it was hurtful and it was difficult. It was well worth it. I would do it again in a heartbeat, feel that rejection to experience what I have now with Jen. I can't really comment on revenge motives and stuff. I don't have that. In the breakup in my first marriage, I had that opportunity to get her back or whatever, and I even had people suggest that to me. Their reactions to what she did and the way it was done were, well, yeah, oh, they were angry for me, and I appreciate that. As much as I appreciate that, I had no interest in revenge, and I don't have that. I don't think it gets anywhere. They say if you're planning revenge, dig two graves. Probably not saying that right, but it kills people. Revenge, the idea of revenge, it's not a good concept. So that's all I'll say about that. And the last part, are those negative experiences ever able to be put to one side? Yes. Yeah, I've done it. I've known other people that have done it. It depends on how much you want to live your life in a place of being free, open, authentic, and not have your past dictate to you how you're going to live your present and your future. What do you think, Jen?
Gosh, did you like pre-write out these answers?
No,
That was just so beautifully said.
thank you.
I'm over here like, "Brr, brr, brr." I don't know how I'm gonna answer this. How relevant is prior hurt in the decision to reveal or not reveal in the future? I think it can play a big role
Yeah,
in holding back any kind of reveal.
sure.
I think more times than not, it holds people back than the opposite.
Right.
I think when people heal and get to the end of this question where they're able to put it to one side, they can move ahead and just be more careful, and be more careful about the people they choose to reveal themselves to. You still there?
Yeah, I was making noise. I didn't want to make
Oh, okay.
noise, so
Gotcha. It just got so
I
quiet. I
muted.
was like,
I'm
did it
sorry.
disconnect?
No, I didn't disconnect. I'm sorry about that.
That's
Yeah.
all right. And also how difficult is it to overcome the fear of rejection? I think that depends on the person and how much rejection that they've been through
Sure.
or how much hurt they've been through. I'm like you, I don't really have any revenge motives. I've had a few fleeting thoughts, like, daydreams, but it's
Sure.
nothing I would even come close to walking out. And that's just not who I am at the core. I'm not, I pray for my ex, which is, I think, a very healing thing. I think it's very, very healing to pray for the people that have hurt you.
Sure. Sure. It's
Um,
it's biblical too. I mean, it's the
yeah,
it's
pray
the
for your
idea
enemies.
of loving your enemies. Yeah, love people that have hurt you. Doesn't mean it's easy, but that's the thing.
No.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that you're not a big revenge person, but I was just going to say, just really quickly, if anyone has any right to revenge, I believe it's you. I mean, if I was going to judge it from the outside, I would say, with everything that you went through all those 14 years, honestly, there'd be a part of me that would completely understand if you wanted to get revenge or Schadenfreude, I think is what they call it. I believe it's a German term that means delighting in the misfortune of others who have hurt you.
Yeah.
I admit that I might have those feelings temporarily, but I don't hold on to that stuff.
Yeah. I don't dwell on it.
Yeah, it's not.
Don't ruminate on it. Nope.
Ruminate. Yes, ruminate. That's a good one.
Ruminate. No, ruminate. What about you, Glenn?
Yeah, Glenn.
I found it was after hurt, it was much easier to turn the other cheek, or is that what they call it?
Yeah, biblically speaking,
Yeah.
turn the other cheek. That's correct.
Okay. I found that was much easier than actually dealing with the fear of rejection. Revenge is not an issue. Negative. I was surprised. It took a tremendous amount of effort to break through that fear of rejection. It was much more difficult than I realised it, because a bit like Jen, it's something that just keeps popping in when you least expect it, and you start to second guess yourself. So, yeah. So are they able to be put to one side? Yes, but I don't think we can underplay the amount of effort that's required. I don't think you just suddenly wake up in the morning and say, it's all gone now, I'm good. Don't think so. Can't see it. Oh, yeah.
Takes a lot of hard yards.
Well, once again, it's not that, it's difficult, isn't it? Don't you think it's difficult to do it by yourself? I do.
Yeah.
I couldn't have done it. Not in a million years could I have done that without assistance.
Yeah. I don't think you have to. I think it's a matter of finding someone that is willing to help and someone that you can trust. Certainly, Glenn, I'm sure you'd agree with this. Someone that's willing to come forward and be honest with you and take you to task on, be upfront and blunt and honest and open with you about what they see as a struggle.
True, but the issue is that when you're in this place that I was in, I found it was much easier to go on the defensive. As soon as someone would say something, and at first I would say, well, that's a heap of garbage, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And then try to justify my behaviors and attitudes from a place that I'm right and you're wrong. Well,
Right.
that was the thing I had to give up.
Yeah.
I mean, until you can do that, you go nowhere.
Right.
Because people are going to just say, "Well, look, buddy, you know everything. Get on with it." It's the humility that you require to come forward and say, "Look, I'm out of my depth. I need help. Are you prepared? I would appreciate all of those things." That gets you started. Not a big note attitude. And if you think you know everything, that's a hard pedestal to jump off.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, difficult but possible.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Let's see. What do we have left here? We're rounding it out.
I like this next one.
Okay. What'd you say, Jen?
I said I like this next question.
Okay. You like this one? I lost my screen there for a second. Sorry.
Is the amount of reveal that one feels comfortable with proportional to their self-esteem?
Why don't you go ahead? You like this one. Why don't you answer? You asked the question. Let's hear your answer.
So is the amount of reveal that one feels comfortable with proportional to their self-esteem? I think, yeah.
Yeah.
I think I was going to say, I think it goes both ways, but maybe not the more I thought about it. I think when you are more self-assured, you're more likely to open up and just be authentic and share, because there isn't the risk of caring about how people respond.
Right.
If you're more focused on how people are going to respond to you speaking your truth or revealing who you are, or taking the mask off, you're more reluctant to do it.
Yeah.
But if you have this self-esteem, and you and I have called it God esteem many times, and you're secure in that, you can share it and it not be hinged at all on what other people think or what they say or how they respond.
Ooh.
So.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Not have it all be hinged on. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, thanks, Jen.
What about you?
Yeah, I think it is proportional to a person's self-esteem. Absolutely. Let's see, I'm trying to imagine someone with a really low self-esteem being comfortable revealing anything. If you don't like yourself, then why would you reveal anything to anyone else about that? Would you even feel comfortable? I don't think so. I mean, I can't imagine. Now, I think you would say about yourself that you at certain points certainly had low self-esteem, but you also have said that there were some things you did like about yourself, because I was trying to figure out why you were so willing to be open and share things with me or with Glenn for that matter. So what made you feel more comfortable if you yourself are looking at you and saying, oh yeah, I had low self-esteem? Why were you comfortable sharing or revealing even the difficult or struggles, the bad parts of yourself with two people you didn't barely know? I think that's a good question.
Yeah, I think part of that is a God thing. Somehow he helped me see that you guys were safe.
Okay. Yeah.
But you guys, a huge part of it was each of your own willingness to be vulnerable and to be open and share.
Yeah.
Now, there's been times I've thought that's a great indicator on if somebody is safe. I will say that there are people out there that are toxic, that overshare because they're playing on that. They use that as a tool to get other people to open up, because usually when people are opening up with one another, it does cultivate this safe space.
Yeah.
But with you guys, thank goodness you weren't toxic.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm great. Woo! Woo! Dodged a bullet there. Wow. Yeah. So, did I answer this one?
No, I think so. Yeah, maybe you did.
Yeah. Yeah, I did. What about you, Glenn? The reveal is the amount of reveal that one feels comfortable with proportional to their self-esteem.
I believe so. The other thing I think is, geez, I put my hand up again. I think when I didn't have that self-esteem, I was more likely to reveal stuff. But the bottom line was, I wasn't telling the truth.
Uh-huh.
If that makes sense. What I
Sure.
was revealing was bullshit.
Right.
But that changed when I got self-esteem.
Right.
Because why would I talk crap if I actually have some kind of self-belief, self-worth? It just doesn't make any sense. Yeah, I do believe it's definitely proportional. I can't see if you have a low self-worth how you can just lay it all out. It doesn't make any sense. No, it just doesn't make sense for sure.
Right.
So I agree.
I
100%.
agree. Okay. All right, we've got 2 more left to finish, guys, and we've had a lot of people already take off. I know people are getting tired. I forget who it was. They said a busy day tomorrow. I've got a busy day too, and it's been a long haul for me with my work and stuff. But I would like to get through these last 2 questions, and I didn't want to rush things either. We don't ever do that. I remember back in the day, we would, kind of postpone and do the next part the next time. But Glenn does these so perfectly. Usually we can get through it within between 2 and 2.5 hours. And so 2 more to go over, and then we'll say goodnight to you guys. So I appreciate everyone hanging out. And I'll just say a quick hello to Jaylyn.
Hello.
Yeah, hello, Jaylyn. That was a little shout out to my fisherman in a box buddy who, fortunately for him, he's not going to be on the YouTube for a while. The tube of you, as he says. He's taking a trip, and I wish him the best and Godspeed and protection as he travels around on his motorcycle for a while. But apparently he's not going to be doing any broadcasts. So that's
Is he going to come see us?
He actually did mention that he might visit some people along the way. So I don't know if when he's coming this way, but I'm gonna send him a message and see. I told him we would love to meet him, have him stop in and say hello. So we'll see if we can arrange that. But Jaylyn, we're glad to have you. I know I think you came over. I don't remember if you came over with us first and then went over to Fish in the Box, or if it was the other way around or what. But I see you over there in the chat after the fact all the time. So we're glad to have you over here. Okay, so 2 more. No, 3 more. I'm sorry. No, I was right. 2 more. Here's the second to last one here. Is there a certain contentment and inner peace that comes from sharing the real you?
Yes.
I will read this again because this is worth all the money in the world. Is there a certain contentment and inner peace that comes from sharing the real you?
Yes.
What? Yeah, okay, we know Jen's answer.
Don't bother with me. That's my answer.
I when I read this a second ago when you were talking, I had this kind of picture in my head across the screen in my brain, my movie screen in my head, of being myself, with somebody that I don't really know very well, and their facial, because I read people's facial expressions and micro expressions and body language and all that stuff, tone of voice, and them kind of having an odd reaction, and me being like bye, and then walking off and just shrugging my shoulders and being like, there's a contentment in knowing that however somebody responds to me, I responded to myself correctly by just being me.
Yeah.
And if they think it's weird, or they don't like it, or they think I'm crazy, whatever.
Right. Yeah, whatever, right.
But just being able to walk away with a bounce in my step, knowing that no matter how they respond to who I am, I was just fully unadulterated me. And that's, when it comes to ourselves and then what we can offer other people in life, I think that's one of the best gifts we can give, is being authentic to ourselves and other people.
Wow. the best gifts we can give is being authentic. Is that what you said?
Yep.
Yeah. Wow. That's a great one. Whew. Yeah, I have to agree emphatically on this. Is there a certain contentment, inner peace? It's never-ending contentment and peace, in my opinion. Sharing the real you, being open and honest and authentic about who you are with others. And again, as I said earlier, doing that regardless of what other people do. If you're waiting to see what other people do, you're going to be waiting a long time to be the real you. So you have to decide to do that for the benefit of how you live your life, and not living and staying in the past or living for the future, but living in the now, being present in the world, right where you are right now, and having that be real, not being fake, not being plastic, not being pretentious, just being who you are, with all the flaws, with all the virtues. Yeah, absolutely. What do you think, Glenn?
Hi, sorry. I just wrote in chat, contentment and inner peace are a free gift. No energy required. Well, obviously, why would you knock it? It is contentment to the max.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
The only thing I would say is no energy required. I'll think about that. I'm not going to say anything about it now. I'll think about it. No energy required. I would just say quickly that no energy required for contentment and peace. Yeah, I agree with that. I was thinking about it.
You don't work for contentment and inner peace. It comes automatically as a result of your endeavors.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Yeah, I agree with that. All right, last one. We'll say goodnight. Alternatively, is this all just double Dutch and a waste of space?
Nope.
Double Dutch is the double
jump ropes.
Double. Is it all double Dutch? And alternatively, is this all just double Dutch and it's a waste of space? No, not at all. Revealing yourself, inner peace, contentment, being open about who you are, telling people when you're upset or hurt, asking for what you want, not feeling guilt and anxiety, all of that, taking the mask off completely. Every one of these is not a waste. It's not a waste of space to me. To me, it's all important. It's all part of living life, not just surviving, not just, waiting for your day to come and waiting for that certain bus to come and not sweep you off your feet and put an end to your misery. Yeah, it's a hard world, hard yards indeed. I'll be the first to say that. I'm not extremely pessimistic, but gosh, I'm realistic about what this world is. It's a hard place to live, and there are people in it that are hurtful and angry and frustrated, and I know that. I know that's true. You don't have to be that way, regardless of how the world is. You can, if we suffered some kind of Holocaust, or we suffered some kind of nuclear explosion, you could still, in your misery and the miserable conditions and surrounded by all this stuff, you could still decide to be an authentic person and find some enjoyment out of life. Sometimes the enjoyment out of life is just, oh, good, I found food today so I can eat. Sometimes maybe you need to live at that level where you're just happy you were able to find some food for the day. It changes your whole perspective, in my opinion. So sometimes that might be a good thing. We're so spoiled in the West and in America. I'm not saying there aren't people in America that are dealing with poverty or they're homeless. I'm not saying that. But even the homeless here are richer indeed than some of the homeless in some of the other countries. Living in crap piles and living off junk that people throw and building houses out of garbage. Come on. Why did I bring all that up? Because being authentic is not a waste of time, regardless of your situation, regardless of your circumstances. I think it's never a waste of time to be authentic. Be who you are. Have your own identity. We've had so many shows attaching things to get to this point. Being autonomous, not basing your opinion of yourself on what other people think. I'll remind everyone, my mom had that plaque with a bunch of penguins in it. They're all the same. There's like 3 or 4 penguins that all look the same. And then there was one penguin that was dressed all different and kind of funky. And it said, be your own special self. I always thought that was cute, and I thought it was true. Be your own special self. Be whoever you are. You don't have to be the same as everyone else. You don't have to look like everyone else or say the same words everyone else does. Be who you are. And I'm afraid we're losing that.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't want to lose it. I don't want to lose it. I don't want to see people just become all the same. You know, I want people to be whoever they are. Delight in who you are. And if other people don't delight in you, find someone that does, because there are people out there that would be glad to be around you, whoever you are. There's I believe there's someone for everybody, and there are people out there that would be just thrilled to have your attention and thrilled with who you are, with all your flaws and all your virtues. They would be happy. What do you think, Jen? This last one, double Dutch, a waste of space.
Those are the same things, right? Because it's not saying
And a
or
waste of space. That's
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Double Dutch.
No, definitely not a waste of space.
Right.
I think all of this is pretty imperative. It just links everything together. And if we're all the same, or if we make ourselves all the same by shoving ourselves in these molds that society or whatever puts us in, you know, to where we're not rocking the boat, we're not being individuals, I think it just defeats the whole purpose of why we're here.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
So.
I agree. What about you, Glenn? This last one, is it double Dutch and a waste of space?
I think it is if you're in a miserable situation, because all you really want to do in that scenario is put your head through the wall. You're not interested in being the real you. You're just trying to survive. What the point I'm trying to make is, if you are in a miserable situation, I believe the only way that you can address being the real you and looking for contentment and inner peace is you have to find a way to break out of it.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't see within that situation, it will be anything but double Dutch.
Right.
It's sad. I know that I can relate to that perfectly. Why would I have cared about contentment when I was miserable?
Yeah.
And I had no way out.
Yeah.
Unless I did something drastic or someone else did
Sure.
something drastic. So yeah.
Okay.
Sad stuff, hey, but there's people in this situation, I'm sure. Many people.
Yeah.
It isn't double Dutch and a waste of space. That is for sure.
Right. Yeah. I think we all agree on that one.
Yep.
Okay. Normally we would kind of, drag this out a little bit at the end, but I have a long day tomorrow, so we're going to kind of, we did get through everything without rushing it. It's almost quarter till the top of the hour, so we're going to say our quick goodbyes here. We'll start with Jen. Go ahead and say goodbye to the peoples for us, Jen.
Good night, peoples. Thank you so much again for hanging out with us and being a part of the discussion and sharing your thoughts and opinions. You guys mean a lot to us, and your input is valuable.
Agreed.
And who you are matters. So we're really grateful that you guys came to hang out with us. So thanks.
Thank you. And Glenn, say goodbye to the peoples for us.
Good night, everyone. Great you came. Great comments in the chat. I've taken some of them to heart, and they'll be included in upcoming shows. And if Krebs, you do me a favour, it is my favourite movie. If you read that last quote, that'd be awesome.
I'd plan on reading that last and then signing off. Yeah, that I will absolutely do that.
Thank you very much, and good night all.
Good night all. Yeah, okay. Remind everyone quickly about Tuesday night, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. If you don't have the link already, do send me an email, truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. Let me know that you're interested in coming. That room, as I said earlier, is open, so you won't have to wait to be invited in. You can just join. I do have the power. If we get anyone that hears this and wants to cause problems or anything, then it's not that I can't handle it. It's just we're not waiting to give permission to people. So there's that. truestorylive.crips@gmail.com. If you're listening to the playback, we thank you for listening. Please consider joining us in the chat. It's good fun, and have some conversations with some good people that are here, or join us on the Tuesday night at 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. Okay, so stay tuned for part 2 next week, where we will ask you to open your eyes. And we end with a quote from Glenn's favorite movie, Blade Runner, 1982. I don't know why he saved my life. Maybe in those last moments, he loved life more than he ever had before. Not just life, anybody's life, my life. All he wanted were the same answers the rest of us want. Where did I come from? Where am I going? How long have I got? All I could do was sit there and watch him die. Rick Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, after the final confrontation with Roy Batty, played by Rutger Hauer. May he rest in peace. As I said, Blade Runner 1982. That's it for us, guys. Again, appreciate you being part of our broadcast. As Lon says, our offering. And we wish him, as I said earlier, we wish him a good and safe trip on his journeys, and we'll be looking forward to him coming back. Thanks for joining us, and have a good week. If you don't have your taxes done, tomorrow's the last day. So give me a call while I'm at work. Maybe I'll get someone I know on there. All right. Thanks again for listening. Until next Sunday, either Tuesday or next Sunday night, please stay well, take care, and God bless. Good night.